There we go. We are live. Go ahead.
All right,
Saraquoia, take it
everybody,
away.
we are
Love
live
you
for the
guys
Craft
here.
Growers Network.
All
What
right,
you got?
thank you.
Thanks, Gabby. So, this week on the show, we have AC Moon joining us in a few. She is still up in Humboldt, so she's getting a couple of technical quirks worked out. And we have Phoebe back as our guest co host and not
Hey
so
guys.
today. So, being all deadheads, here we are at our days between. So I just want to shout out to Jerry Garcia as we all keep him in our hearts and remember him during this week. Um, as we've talked a lot on the show, the Grateful Dead tour and members of the community that were traveling all over the country were a lot of the ways that we got good home grow from coast to coast back in the day and how we found all of each other originally. So I'm stoked to have both of you here with me. Um, Hoping that we get AC in here. Um, so,
I have faith
uh,
in this computer of her friends.
yes, I think so.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
the
we're keeping
days
the faith.
between is hot right now in California.
Oh, yeah.
You got like yeah, it was like 109 yesterday. I don't
Oh,
think it like
wow.
gets under 100 until like Sunday or Monday maybe.
Wow.
So it's
Sunday's my
cooking.
Man.
birthday.
Yeah. Oh, happy
Yeah, I'm kind
early
of,
birthday,
yeah,
Phoebe.
I
thank
have it
you.
in my phone.
Oh, you do? So
Uh-huh.
you already know.
I do.
You coming
Yeah, I
out
mean
to
I
party or
try
what?
I try like various friends and family and things, like I'll just put it on like reoccurring date
Yeah.
and then it's just in there, you
I
know?
should do
Nice.
that because I have your full chart. I have Natso's full astrology and human design chart. So if you want to know,
Yeah.
I'm
She
Wow.
even
sure
has
that,
a
yeah. So I've got that, but so I know your time, your location. I just need to add
She's
you
even
on
got a lock
top.
of hair and a nail clipping, so I have to
Oh
be
yeah,
nice
I've
Uh-oh.
got,
because
you better not do me dirty. I've got the
Yeah.
voodoo doll like already built.
Just
You
be
have
oh
nice
many
to
fuck.
years to
Phoebe.
have picked up the clippings and all the things.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm listening
Where are
here to
you at
see.
with your farm, Francis? How are the buds?
It
Huh.
has been hot and
Yeah,
uncomfortable. I've been kind of
yeah,
Wow.
I've been kind of doing a night shift since I've been spraying at night. And you kind of
yeah,
have to wait till dusk. So I've been
yeah. You
kind of showing
better.
up in the mid afternoon and then going till like 10.
Yeah,
Wow.
Um, but it's hot.
yeah.
And I've been coming home like, I don't know, I feel like beef jerky or something. Like I'm like, yeah, I feel like
You've
dehydrated
been
and
preserved.
yeah, and like your skin, and I don't know. I like need to like sleep in moisturizer or something with like a little tube that comes out so I can breathe.
Wow. Yeah.
It's
It's
brutal. I
like
mean,
that time
honestly,
of
like
season.
whatever,
Or
California's hot and 90s are fine, but like I feel like every degree it gets above your body temperature is harder.
yeah, those are tough degrees.
So if it's like 108 or 9 or something and it's like a full 10 degrees above your body basically is like working double time to keep the AC on, you know?
Speaking of AC, maybe Saraquoia, in hopes of bringing her on, do you want to tell us what you know about her and like why she's so important as a woman of
Yeah.
cannabis and
Right.
her place in
Yeah.
the world?
Well, I wanted to get more of her background this time because last time we just kind of went into the political landscape as it is right now because she had just gotten done speaking to the California Control Board. I can't remember what it's a CCD, but I don't know what it stands for cannabis. And
DCC,
DCC.
the Department of
so,
Cannabis
yeah.
Control,
Oh,
is the
that's what
Oh,
big
it is. DCC.
is the
Yeah.
body that screws
Okay.
all of us. Yeah.
got you.
So I'm gonna send AC another link here because maybe we can get her in there. I'm chatting with her. That's why this was hard. But yeah, she was up there talking about the California Legacy Project, which is where they spent like 6 years documenting legacy gardeners and legacy genetics, and then they presented their findings to the board. Um, One, to help prove that cannabis was medicine, but also to kind of document and preserve the genetics that were kind of specific to that region. And the way she
So
explained it to me, it
important.
was almost like how wine can be from a specific region, but until you get that certification, you're not able to, say that it's from that region, and
Well,
that
I
they
was
were
thinking about that as I traveled. I went back to Humboldt, like I returned to the areas that I grew just a few weeks ago. And so it was really crazy being back after so many years and having that very crisp ending of being
Mhm.
there and seeing what it was like and that snapshot, and then returning, and seeing the change. In even one thing I noticed was the cannabis quality in the dispensaries went way down, because I stopped at a dispensary because what the heck, let's see what people are doing and putting out. And I've been thinking a lot about the regional specifications, and there was a lot of talk when I was growing with Francis about the desire to designate appellations, like with wine, like you're talking about, like champagne can only come from Champagne. Well, Humboldt OG should only be able to come from Humboldt potentially, or something like that.
Right.
And I think it's like something's got to be done, because it makes me sad. There's people that make pre-rolls here. The closest legal state to me is
No
Massachusetts,
cameras
and
are
there is
found.
so much branding from that area. Humboldt branding, Mendo branding, and someone's making money
Why
off
does nothing
that, and
ever
it's
work
not,
for me?
yeah,
I
the
am
people that built that culture.
Just ask not so.
my
Hey, Natsu,
temper.
are you able to send the link that you sent to Phoebe over to AC Moon? I just sent you her address.
Perhaps. I mean, I use my phone for
Perhaps.
all this, so I
Uh-huh.
might
Oh,
have to
you're
like,
on your phone.
yeah, which is fine. I
Mm,
mean, I can. It's not like I can't log back in. I might have to bail and then
okay.
do that and then come back in,
Yeah,
sadly,
she just
because
asked me for a link again, and I know the one I sent her and Phoebe earlier didn't work, and then she got the one from
Maybe I
Gabby.
can try. Hang on.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you could
Here,
maybe,
Text
let me. I'll
me
yeah,
her
send it. I'll
email.
send you her email address, Phoebe,
because
No
the one that I
worries.
sent
right
to Phoebe
now.
worked and she's here.
Cool. Yeah, that's what I
So
was thinking. So I'm trying to get her
while
in
we're
here.
while we're boring our viewers to death with some technical
Uh,
difficulties, I will
yeah,
say
I'm
that
curious.
um, I don't necessarily like the whole appellations thing.
It's just
I'm
not even working.
I
What?
Doesn't matter.
I, I
As
heard her.
always,
I
the
heard
I
a
Yeah,
hear
I
I
you,
heard
know.
a
I'm
AC.
like,
We
I
hear
heard her
you.
anything I
loud and
touch that's
clear.
So
electronic.
I heard
now
a
we just need
disembodied
your.
voice.
Yeah, I heard. We can hear you on the podcast. We can hear you.
Is this
But
AC? Can you hear
Wow.
me
Yeah,
talking
that's her.
shit?
That's.
I'm
Yeah,
I
so
Oh, I
can,
hear
yeah.
sorry.
you.
yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay, let's see what we can do here. Let
That's
me
so
try
That is
and
very
funny.
odd.
forward this to you.
Yeah. Yeah, we can hear you. Oh, we're
Forward.
trying our best, babe. I'm not sure where we're picking you up from because it's in the studio. It's not on the phone.
There's a
I don't know where
ghost in the
Gabby
shell
is.
here.
Everything's
Yeah. Is
chaotic.
there somewhere where you could maybe turn on a video on your page where you're at? We're
Oh,
trying.
Okay, here I go
Okay, she's
sending
gonna
Nacho's
Phoebe's
email.
inviting you in. Hopefully that will work.
God
Yay.
bless anyone that's listening. We are really happy that you have such immense amounts of patience. We're almost there.
Yeah, oh, that's it.
I feel good
It's
about
time to
this
smoke some
actually.
weed.
Phoebe feels
Yeah.
good about this link, so that's positive.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I like
Oh,
it.
I'm
I
feeling
like
great.
it.
This one's the one, hopefully. Let's see.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
also love this
I
really
copied your
easy email
email.
that I won't dox on the air, but let's just say AC Moon has a really cool email.
I think she did. Let's see. Or she's trying to.
It's bad when I'm helping with tech. That's always a red
Uh
flag for
oh.
any situation.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's so weird. Because we can hear you in the studio.
No,
I see
that's
Gabby.
yeah. I was gonna say.
Hey,
I
what's
got
up?
excited. I got
Hey.
excited. We can hear her,
Hey,
Gabby.
Gabby. Yeah,
She's
it's
in the
weird.
room.
Uh-oh. My dog is barking.
Well, I mean, she can do it like that. There just won't be any video. I sent you the link, my friend. I emailed
Okay,
it to you. I
hopefully,
can text it to you as well.
hopefully, cool.
Now you have to listen. You have to use a Chrome browser if you're on a computer. Okay.
Cool, awesome. Yay. All right, Phoebe's gonna try to send you the link, or Gabby is again.
I
I
did
so
Be in
already, so
there.
it should be there.
All right,
how would you,
AC, will you
how
check and see if you got one from Phoebe?
sorry about this, everybody, but I hope
Yeah,
you're all
we
having a
are.
great
We're gonna
day, and
get
we're happy
going.
to have Not So Dog back. He's been
Yeah.
busy with family stuff the last couple of weeks, and so I think the fact that Phoebe joined us today was a little extra incentive for him to join because
Yeah, that's it.
he loves her way more than he loves me. But
That
that's
is not
okay.
true, but
It's just
I
because
have
I'm
a I
rare.
have a
I'm
big
more
heart. There's
rare.
lots of space.
Huh?
There's lots
Mm.
of space for friends.
Yep.
But
Nice.
Well,
Friends, not so
Nice.
has a big heart. Plenty of space.
he
there's
does.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Well,
Well,
I mean
not
we.
so. What were you saying about
hey,
Appalachia?
All right, well,
okay.
I'll make this point just real quick while we're waiting because Phoebe brought up the Appalachian thing and all that. I do believe pretty strongly, having grown in a number of places now, that um, you know this sounds stupid for a second, but like in America, well, I mean, like in America, okay, we're such a big country that like goes coast to coast and far north and south and all that, that we figure out where the best place to grow crops are. And
Oh
then we
yeah, you do
produce
it.
most of those crops in the region that's suited for it, right?
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
whatever, potatoes in Idaho, oranges in Florida, apples in New York, whatever it might be. And having grown lots of different places, I'm not going to sit here and like toot my area's horn over everyone else's, but I do think that there's a weird combination in Humboldt, Trinity, Mendo, a little bit of Lake County, where it is an amazing climate to grow herb. The combination of the bright, hot sun, the dryness and the low humidity, the fact that it doesn't rain barely at all during the growing season, and then what I think is the
The
most important part,
elevation.
elevation plays a role too. But what I think is one of the
Oxygen
biggest parts
and CO2.
is that even though it's blazing hot where I live, at in the late afternoon the wind shifts and it pulls in all this like cold air from the coast, right? And so you get this like big difference between day and nighttime temps. And I honestly think that it's sad because the epicenter of California cannabis right now is probably like Santa Barbara, Los Angeles, and Sacramento.
Oh,
And there's a lot of regions that just aren't as nice to grow cannabis.
right.
And so right now,
But those
we're
areas are growing indoors, right?
Yeah.
I'm not Santa
You know,
Barbara.
Well, some of them are trying to grow outdoars and just growing boof and like wondering
I
why.
mean,
Like,
hey,
Santa
Yeah.
I gotta
Barbara.
I gotta let you guys go because I have a meeting. But
Okay.
if
I
you need
do have
me,
a little
text me and I'll
phone
see what I can
charger.
do.
I'll be right back.
Thanks.
So it's like instead of farmers picking where the climate suits the crop best, they're sort of picking where the government is allowing them to, or like a combination of things, or they're letting them blow it up and what have you. And it's just turning out that like, there's a lot of, um, sometimes the weed isn't as nice from those places. And I also think that there's been like a transition from like what Phoebe was saying, where people used to grow relatively, I mean, small is a relative term, I guess, but like they used to grow much smaller batches, right? And then they could keep their quality control a bit better. And I think what's happened in early legalization is as people have scaled up, they've lost the ability to create like quality at scale. And so they use marketing and advertisement and various things to sort of like paper over the fact that it's just not quite as good.
Well, and
Because
you're,
like
yeah.
Phoebe just said, I don't think most people that were around during 215 think that what's in dispensaries is as good and definitely not better than what used to be. So
Well,
there's been a
yeah.
there's been a
I
big quality downgrade.
Yeah, there has for sure.
I was
Yeah.
thinking too just about
Here also.
how much, yeah, you've seen that too, Saraquoia? Because, man,
Yeah,
I
for
was
sure.
bummed. I literally asked the guy, I said, when I went to the dispensary in California, I said, money's no object. Give me the most fire bud you've seen come through here. You know,
Yeah.
I wanted to see what was up. What are you doing?
Uh-huh.
And you should be able to go to any dispensary in California and get red hot fire, no question, at a good
Right.
price, you know? And so I spent like what wasn't a large sum of money. It was like a paltry sum. I got my weed, and man, I've been getting better stuff out of Massachusetts, and it's embarrassing. You know, there's really like no way to explain it except for mass production and people getting pushed out, like quality small growers getting pushed out. And I think the thing is, like, you're dealing with a consumer base. Like, I talk to people all the time, like my friends who buy pens. They're not growers, they're suburban homies that just living their lives working, whatever. And, you know, I'll try to explain to them, it's like some of the pens they have, the distillate, it's like I'll explain to them that that's the only good thing these people can come up with, because they can boil it down enough that the crap is out of your product. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you'd almost rather smoke distillate as a grower, just because you're like, I know it's THC, I know it's this. But anyways, long story short, it's just sad because it was very evident that they've let people that don't care about the plant run the show.
Well,
You know.
I say this thing in private all the time, and this might insult people or whatever, but I won't call anyone out specifically. Oh my God.
Bum,
I
ba-da-dum, bum, bum,
see
bum, ba-da-dum, bum, bum,
there.
Thank you guys.
bum.
I appreciate it.
And whoop,
All it
there
took
it
was that
is.
right link. Everybody kept sending me screenshots, so I was
No,
I
having to
know
like
they did
write
that
it
to me
down.
too. Did me dirty.
And when you
Oh
gotta
my
write
gosh,
something like
Lady.
that to try to join a podcast,
Oh my
I
gosh.
need more weed, dude. How was everybody this morning? Thanks for your patience.
Yay. Thanks for
Good to have
joining
you
us.
on, AC.
Yay. All right.
Hell yeah.
Very
How's
cool.
your guys' day? I was watching you guys chat it up for a second.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm-
we were just chatting about, you know, the quality of the herb at the dispensaries around the state, because Ohio is the same. It's just not very good weed.
Okay, so Phoebe's in Humboldt. Sarah, you're in Ohio. Not so. Where are you?
Mendo, Southern
Oh, you
Mendo,
are down there. What town?
Redwood Valley.
Okay. I did some interesting work in Redwood Valley there for a while. Yes.
I've been in Mendo since late 90s, basically.
Okay, I thought that's where you hailed from, but I wasn't for darn sure. How have I not seen you in the Emerald Triangle, my friend? How have I not seen
I
you?
spent a lot of time just up a hill. You
Well,
know,
yeah,
it's
I
a little bit, you know, I don't know. I mean, it's funny. I always had this joke that like people are only like 3 hippies removed from each other. Like, you know, like they have friends
if
in
that
common.
three hippies is a lot.
Yeah, you know, and like and all that. And so, but yeah, I mean, I moved here from Chicago in I don't know, summer of 98, I suppose.
Oh, that's
Something like
awesome.
that, and I've been here since. So,
Fantastic.
yeah. So this
I'll have
is
to have
this
you
is
over to
basic.
Area 101, and we'll do some podcasting over there together.
Oh, you're over
Yeah.
there, AC? That's cool. I always drive by that spot and wonder what is going on. That's cool.
Oh, that is definitely one of the home fronts. Right? I mean, that's the ground zero for cannabis cups in the world.
I mean, I don't want to. I don't think
First
this is
Emerald Cup
outing.
was put on there.
I don't think this is
Wow.
outing him or anything like that. But the first 100 lighter I ever saw was Tim's.
Yeah, yes.
You know,
He definitely has legacy in that way.
a,
That's for damn sure.
a bajillion years ago. You know,
It was a bajillion. It literally
a
was
bajillion.
a
I don't know.
million.
I don't know if that's a
bajillion.
technical term, but it seems like stars have been born and died in that amount of time. But
That's real, dude. That's super
I mean,
real.
let's put it this way: it was so old that, like, when I first moved here, Mendo was still very much like a seed culture.
Yeah.
Okay. So the indoor that they had was like these 5 foot beds that were probably, I don't know, 80 to 100 feet long each. Okay.
Mhm.
It was inside, and they would plant them densely with seeds.
Wow.
And then about 10 days in, they would go in with little clippers and they would snip off everything with balls at the base, because
Yes.
they didn't do it from clone, they did it from seed. So you would look it down, and instead of being like a perfect canopy, it would be like empty spot, empty spot. Oh, there was a batch of males, they got
Yep.
cut out. But they
Those
didn't
are the
really
days.
do they didn't really do from clone then. Mendo was very much a seasonal seed culture type of
Hmm.
place. I would say that, not to get too off track here, but I would say that basically when I moved here, any good quality herb moved. So
Yeah.
people could grow whatever they wanted. And then about like '04, '05, '03 maybe, when the
Went
purple
clone.
thing hit and the Urkel and the Granddaddy and all of a sudden brokers wanted clone specific stuff.
Right.
And people and clones started spreading around, because if you had this one clone, everything you grew would move.
Right. I
And
think that was a
maybe,
lot to do with the booming of the dispensary industry too, that retail pickup where, we had Dark Heart Nursery and all of the third floor and everything down in the Bay back then. All the mad older hippies around what became the Oaksterdam district. And Oaksterdam is actually an area. It's not just
yeah,
the name of Richard Lee's founding college. Um, all of that is like when they started really Dark Heart was pumping clones, it was because, you know, seed stock, we couldn't have gotten the culture that we have now if it was all solid seed stock, in my opinion, because there's no consistency and everybody didn't know how to make and breed and like even grow. Like seeds didn't come back into commerce until like 5 or 6 years ago because everybody was really focused on cloning. I know myself, I made plenty of dough, pumping out thousands of clones a week. So I think it became like an easy commerce sector,
yeah. And what
almost
became
easier than
consistent.
seeds.
I mean, when I
Yeah,
first moved here, mixed pheno pounds were common.
yeah.
As long as it was the same strain, you could
Toss
just
salad.
mix the different sisters together and that would be fine. And then it
Hmm.
kind of shifted to like, if you wanted to move stuff, it was like, oh, is this all sour diesel? Is this all
Yeah,
this one kind of Kush? Is this all Urkel? It had to be a consistent thing, where previously it was like you could literally get a pound and there might be 3 or 4 different kinds of herb in it.
right.
They might be
We had this
sisters to
guy
each
that
other.
would. We used to get the strawberry blueberry mix around Ohio. It was like that same time period around 2000. And we
Oh,
would
that
always be
sounds kind
like,
of nice.
man, if only you could like not mix this up. And the guy would be like, I just mix it up. It's like, I
It's
don't
I
kind of
even
mean,
nice
not mix
though.
it up.
what's
But
so
it was
funny
like you
about
could
that,
see them in there, but they would, but it would always be strawberry, blueberry. What is
in
Right.
this?
those in
Strawberry,
those mixed
blueberry.
pheno pounds, sometimes we would
Hmm.
smoke something that was exceptional,
Hmm.
and then you would dump out the whole pea and like look for those
Yeah,
kind of nuts, and you'd be
cherry
like,
pick those
oh,
one little buds out.
there's like 2 ounces of it in here. This is what we
Yeah,
want, actually. This
that
two
sounds
ounces
right.
out of this pea, this is what's in here. This is what we want.
And
You
as a
know.
That's totally
farmer, for me, it
relatable.
was always like I am short like 1 ounce on this unit to get it out of the
Right.
drying room.
Yeah,
And I'm
can
like,
we
what else
mix?
do we got that kind of looks like
Kind of
it
looks
so we
like
get
it.
it in
Yeah.
there and get it out the door at the right
Yeah.
mark? I'm like,
Well,
I got
people
All
don't
for the
200
realize that,
label.
grams.
but for a long time in Humboldt and Mendo, it was like the unit was the unit. So it's like if you had a unit, it went. If you had less than a unit, it was personal for you and your friends.
It's still that way
So
in a lot of spaces. Definitely in my world, I'm like, oh, that's short. I guess we're gonna have to smoke it. Oh, it's too bad for us.
But like
Like,
the purple craze was the first thing that changed that, because like when Urkel came around and stuff,
right,
people
the
would be like, "Oh,
breakdown.
you have 12 pounds and 7.5 ounces. I'll take the 7.5 ounces. That's fine.
Right.
We'll just prorate it, you know."
Well, it's also
And
because the street hustlers knew that there was such a high demand for it that they could break it down no matter what it was. And it's like, if it was an ounce, they could still bust it down and make that. So I think with the green, we just had so much of it, it's less likely that the smaller amounts would get pushed out. And then the purple, they're like, yeah, that somebody's gonna get that no matter what. If not, I'm gonna smoke it and I'm gonna be super happy about it. And I remember those days specifically where it's like everything changed to purple, and it was a lot to do with the. I think I spoke about this at some point recently. We were talking about hip hop
I
and
was gonna say
reggae.
rap culture, like
Yeah, it was very
big
much like the East Coast
influence.
rap culture and the SoCal rap culture that really brought purples back to the front. And it was because it was something blingy. It was something that, that was like the jewelry on your neck. That was the gold bars.
You
It
were the
was
one
having
with
that
something
purple frost.
different. You
Yeah,
were the
Yeah.
exactly.
one. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something unique and something different is always, rarity is
all
often worth more.
all that is true, and there was like one other thing. This is like my own theory, but I'm pretty sure it's true, which is that purple became popular when there was like waves of beasters coming down from Canada,
Right.
right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And there was a lot of people, because brokers are brokers and hustlers are hustlers, where they were like getting cheap Canadian indoor and then trying to pass it off as humble or Mendo grown, or, like
Right.
indoor, because the
So the
price difference
purple
was
was
so
like a
vast.
signifier.
Right.
And
That's
people
cool.
didn't, and the beast was like a grade quality lower.
Oh,
And so
totally.
people
Yeah, that
started,
was like Britannica, so
Yeah.
in the store
and
in
people,
Navicore.
so people
Indica.
wanted the perp because that wasn't coming from Canada. So if it was
Oh,
purple, you knew
yeah.
you weren't going to
They
get
could tell.
jacked on them. Like it
Right.
was American homegrown.
I can say that, I mean, I met up with several truckloads and that were being pushed out from BC down. And I was a bulk hustler back in that time where it's like that was our battlefield, really, is getting down to LA and we're like, hustlers fight. Like, and, it started being the price battle and stuff. And like, we pushed BC out just by being able to grow so much that we
Yeah.
overgrew the BC industry. But I do specifically remember that BC brought in some really great purple seeds. I mean, it wasn't like the deep purple that we would see from Urkel or GDP. It had like that frostiness, like the outside kind of like
Like the
tinge of
lavender
purple.
look.
Yeah,
I love
just the
that look.
beginning of it.
Yeah.
It looks pretty. I
Yeah.
don't know
Not
about
the
it being
same,
applicable
but
and
it looks
drying.
good.
I
Yeah.
actually, and then we can stop talking about Beast and start talking about AC Moon. But I
I
actually
prefer to talk
think
about
I
beasts.
actually to tie off like some of the American legal stuff we were talking about. I actually think that a lot of American legal right now is, I call it American Beasters, because
American
like
Beasters.
Yeah.
because if you
Make
think
a
about
shirt,
it,
Francis.
AC,
Let's go.
Yeah.
Beasters was like our first experience with large
Commercial.
scale warehouse
Yes.
grown,
Absolutely.
commercially grown, high EC, high yield, grown
Right.
for market weed.
Right.
With,
Not
And
with
American
zero
Really
load.
homegrown.
poignant. Not so. That's
Yeah.
super poignant,
Zero
and
load.
it really was our first. But it's our first experience with indoor bulk because being from Cali, like I grew up with peach can, so that was the large commercial Hispanic grown weed that was
Yeah.
smashed into cans that was the size of Folgers coffee cans, and a whole pound fit in there, and then they put it
Yeah.
on the back of the Harley Davidsons, and all of a sudden it would like magically appear in Sacramento and get distributed. And
Yeah.
so it's like we did have that commercial, but you're right, it wasn't like indoor commercial or like that highly skilled commercial.
Standardized industrial
Yeah,
stuff.
for
Yeah.
sure. And then
You know, but it was,
I
yeah.
mean, I don't want to call the Hispanic community's ag practices back then unstandardized. They knew what they were doing. It was just like a different way of doing shit.
Yeah.
A
Totally.
field
Well,
composed
and having to
opposed to a
pack it and
greenhouse.
take it so far, like once you've smashed all your weed into a coffee can, it's just not going to be the same,
Yes.
But it's probably going to arrive where you're trying to get it to, and that was like the trade-off, I think. We, I knew people that they would see like they would have like bales that you could see the donkey strap, where they strapped it down seriously to get it out of the mountains of Mexico and into the badlands of whatever state they were moving through in the Southwest, But like they'd come in all kinds of shapes, the old brickweed, and then
I used to get that
you're
too, and
lucky
like
it's
hustle
green
that.
still.
It was funny.
Yeah,
I
they'd
used
be
to
like
laugh when I got the
weird
corner of
shapes.
the bale.
Yeah.
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 You're
I'm
it's
like,
a
oh, that's
triangle.
right there.
Yeah. I had
I
a
mean,
friend that had he had a big, it was like a bale separator. It was like a giant screwdriver. It was just covered in
Yes,
hash,
exactly.
right?
That was
They
my
would like
job as a
steam that.
child.
Dude,
Oh,
kids nowadays don't know how people would like steam their shit and have to break it apart with a giant screwdriver, you know? Like,
Right.
so
I
I
remember
mean,
the
even
thanks
like
for good herb
even the
that's local.
Canadian,
Give
which
thanks for that.
wasn't compressed. It was still
Right.
different
Yeah.
because a lot of times it was put into a seal meal too fast, and it would
mm,
ferment a little bit
Yeah.
when it was sealed up and shipped. And so
Yeah, and
some
also
can,
wet trimming. I noticed, the big racks of wet
yeah,
trim would give you like that kind of ball because people are just like tossing,
Yeah. Yeah. It
tossing,
all looks
tossing.
like little hard Christmas trees,
Right,
kind of like
right.
today's
And some
weed
might
from the
kind of squished a little
dispensary.
because somebody left it in one position
Left
too
it
long.
on
One
one
yeah,
flat.
flat
Yeah.
on one
well,
side.
the weird part about that was that,
Yeah.
like, too, they kind of knew like where the competition was. So in parts of the country that had like weed culture, for lack of a better term, they would send the better Canadian there. And then the
Right.
parts of the country that the only competition was maybe brown Mexican, that would
Yeah.
get like the different grade because like it was
Yeah.
still way better, So,
No,
um,
that's
Yeah.
true.
but
How
yeah,
Well,
no,
times
I
have
think,
conditions
changed, you guys.
too.
How times have changed.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah, they have.
And now
Just
we
the
but
get to
in a
times of
way they
drink.
kind
year
of stayed the
too, like,
same
and how
because
hot it was and stuff sometimes, and how far stuff had to travel made a huge difference in like its condition once you got it. Like
Oh,
if something
absolutely.
leaves a climate where it's like nice and cool and that's a green product, and then it travels like a few days in a trunk or a box and then it arrives somewhere in a hot desert sun or something, then it's going to be yellow and
all
people are
And
right,
then
going
it
to
just
say,
turns to
oh
dust
man.
like the second it
I
hits the
Yeah.
air. It's like those bad
There's so many
I
sci-fi movies.
variables about the quality of stuff that people get, and that's why I think
Oh yeah.
local is such a great thing to have access to, or home grow and being able to like
Even
have your
better.
medicine be where you are. It's just like so much nicer than having to ship it from somewhere or have
I
it to be
I mean
made without
even that
love.
I think like I've told CSI to do this at his dispensaries, but like I think that like all the like the pre-rolls and the joints and stuff that people have,
Or weed.
I think like I think like a bakery, those should be made fresh that morning and then
That's
like
what my
sold at a
friends
That's
discount a
nice.
day or
David
two
do. Yeah.
later.
Yeah,
And the
there
whole
you go.
idea that because
Right.
everybody who's a smoker is like rolled a joint for a concert and like not smoked them all and then found one 2 weeks later and smoked it.
Yeah.
Like joints are
It's
amazing
not
day
as
one, day
I
two.
know
yeah.
several proprietors that have that practice, and it's the fresh rolled daily like concept, just like a bakery, and it
That's cool.
definitely improves the quality of the pre
If
roll.
anybody has smoked a
Yeah.
joint that's 1 to 2 months old
Oh yeah,
versus a joint that
Yeah.
was just ground up and rolled 20 minutes
exactly.
ago, it's not a subtle
Darn.
difference.
No, I
Yeah,
totally
no, not at
agree.
all. That's
You
true.
know?
It's a big difference.
I can't say I've ever bought a pre-roll where I was like, "Oh man, this is delicious." They
No,
have varying grades of gross, but like they all have, and it's not even the person's fault. It just gets packaged in a little tube and then it might sit there for weeks and.
oh, actually, no, because I really encourage people when I'm writing standard operating processes and documenting different things, especially down in the Virgin Islands or down in the Caribbean, further down in St. Vincent, or even in Thailand, where we have like that lot of that tropical moisture exchange and that really high vapor pressure deficit. I just suggest refrigerators like at all times. Like a lot of people want to display pre-rolls out on their retail shelves and things like that, and I'm like, this is a vegetation product that we are trying to preserve the ester oils,
Yeah.
and you can have one or two out on display, but just like with the edibles, I tell everybody, put those damn pre-rolls in a colder space that is controlled, i.e. a refrigerator that has some sort of hygrometer,
Yeah. When
percentile
we
in
were
it
in
that you can
Thailand, I
function.
noticed that with those stores because a lot of them weren't like really, they were like pretty hot places, but they had their pre rolls and stuff in a refrigerated case in the front. It was kind of
Yeah.
different and cool. But
Yeah,
Well,
so
because you
before
really
we
you get
got
that
you in
moisturizing
here,
and so it gets all
AC,
harsh.
um, before we
I'm not
got
the
you in
person to
here,
do
Phoebe
this.
was asking about why, what was up with AC Moon and how she's a woman of weed and wanting to get to know you and introduce both of you. So I want to do that because Phoebe's not in California. She was, though. She used to grow there with Natso and their old buddies. So she has all the high hills stories that I'm sure that you can relate to. But because it is
100%.
1:40 and I know we have a short show today because we only have 2 hours, I wanted to get into just getting your story out. And as you can see, Phoebe, she's like throwing out like, oh yes, St. Croix or when I was in Thailand, so this is what AC's been up to and where her journey with the weed, the plant that we all love, has taken you. And how we get your story here. So let's just start at the beginning, right? Because you're like a second generation outlaw farmer in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
So in Northern California. So where did you get your first gig that was like outside of your immediate, like when did you start traveling outside of Humboldt and, or not? You weren't in Humboldt when you grew
I
up.
was
You
in
were in
Humboldt
Northern
and
Cal.
in Trinity and in Nevada
Okay.
County. So
Okay.
I'll say that because of being in the industry for a long time and all the different positions that I've played, because me myself, I've been from seed to sale the whole time.
Oh
Like
yeah.
from
Okay.
seed to sale to infusions to edibles to extractions to retail, dispensary, transportation, like all of it. I've done it all, and I
Yeah.
did a huge significant part of it by myself. For the most part, my employees were those that were up on the hill, that were helping me trim, that were helping me like keep control of the ag part of it. I might add like a driver or two, and then people that were down, in the retail dispensary or, like the trappers or medical cannabis providers, as we
Yeah.
had, and
Yeah.
Bring back
I'd
Trappy.
yeah, it was a long time ago. I started. Wait, specific question, reboot.
Okay. So when did you get started like
Going
on your own
international.
thing away from home? Like how did you end up in St. Croix? You were running your own consulting firm, right? With
Well,
your
what
co.
happened is I got a little bit too big for my britches, and about
Uh,
2006, I started getting raided at my retail space in
yeah.
the Bay Area, and so
By the
the
feds
feds
or
kept
by the
coming
Cali?
in. Feds kept coming in, and then my home space and my farms were raided by the federal government in 2009, and then again in 2011, and again
Oh,
in 2012. And what happened is that having multiple properties in, um, Humboldt, Trinity, and in Nevada County, and then working also in Mendo with my
mhm.
people, because I've worked with Emerald Cup since 12,
Nice.
Wow.
a really long time
Yeah.
ago. And then, all of the events or whatever. My I was federally indicted, and so I was indicted for being a racketeer and drug trafficker, and
Wow.
because I was fighting to have my dispensary and the retails and the collectives that I was an assigned grower to. Back then, we would do a paperwork hustle, which we're about
Right,
to start
right. Yeah,
again
I
with
remember that
rescheduling, how it is.
hustle.
And
Yeah.
I would be the official grower per se of hundreds and hundreds of different prescription owning people. So therefore, they would contract out their rights in order to allow me to have the
To
umbrella
grow
of
their
growing
weed for
for
them.
them, of
Yeah.
which I would, go from Trinity Pines to Myers
Sure.
Flat and beyond, and try to pull it down. And then after my partner and um, my community was really, really put down. We had Operation Green Raids and everything going where they were pulling everybody out of cars, held my
And this
family
is after
underground.
Californians voted for medical cannabis, right?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
this is
Oh yeah,
happening
that's all
after
after
that.
that.
So
Yes.
here we
We
are.
did
decades
that in
after.
Yeah, that's way
96.
after. And they still
Yeah.
arrest people super rugged. Like hearing AC tell her story, it's just brings back bad memories because I feel like these people would know that it was just a bunch of hippies, but they'd roll in hard, hard, hard,
Yeah, that sucks.
whether
I
or
feel
not
like there was a bunch
weapons
of
were there.
eras of medical in 215, you
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
where basically where like there was some standards and then it expanded. I feel like a lot of, like from what AC just said, a lot of the early dispensaries in the Bay, like he was just saying, third floor and other places, some of those early people got in trouble or got hassled by the feds really
We
hard.
got shut
And
down every month, and we just move a couple of blocks, change the name
Wow.
of the nonprofit, and just
That's
start keep
awesome,
going.
dude. Good for
And
you.
we would be constantly just changing locations, put
yeah,
up a new
and
sign.
so there was
Everybody
a
would know.
lot. So people think that like, oh, like the law passed and now the prosecutors and the cops
Yeah,
and
And
everyone
now it's
else are
all
just gonna
easy.
like
right.
toe the
No,
Yeah, that's
line
why
or whatever. But
the
it
total
was
I was
really
thinking
like
about it.
it really had its own sort of life to it to a degree, where it was like things would come up and then people would push boundaries and then the government would stomp back and then
yeah.
and it would sprout up over here, and a
Yep.
lot of the early dispensary people got smushed, either through
Or we just kept
busts
moving.
later on, tax issues. They would look at different ways to get people once, like,
Wow.
once one avenue of getting them in trouble would get, like, so here's something, not that I want to talk this much, but here's something that's super stupid. There is a thing where if you have a 30 kW generator or larger, you need a state permit.
Yep.
And if you don't have that
Wow.
state permit, it's a $250,000 fine that goes up
Holy
with every
shit.
hour you illegally used it. So sometimes cops would raid places, and like AC said, they would hit this thing where the person would have, I work with these dispensaries, I have 7,000 patients, we have all the signatures, we have all the this, here's our lawyer, talk to Omar, whatever. And they would just throw their hands up and they'd be like, wait, and they'd just be like, wait, you have an unpermitted generator. We're
Or
gonna
this
charge
over
you
here.
the
Or your house is
Break
oh,
you right
permitted.
out
and
of
you
it.
ran it, and you ran it 1,000 hours illegal. Well, so that's a
Wow.
$780,000 fine. And they would actually attack you for those kind of things, not even the weed, because the
Wow.
weed became problematic. And what they didn't want
It's
was
more
to lose a
paperwork.
case with a jury that would
Hmm.
set a precedent that would be bad for them. So there
Absolutely.
was a lot of
Huh.
cat and mouse,
And
of
a
like
lot of
push
money
forward
and
and push back.
So,
interwoven.
so AC, did you guys fight the charges? Like, how did you deal with that?
Well, due to the
Outside,
fact
or
that
you
right
would
during
just
that
kind of
era,
avoid it, or
during the era, we still had the Cole memo during that era. And for those of those participating in this podcast that do not know what the Cole memo was, that was a Senate written memo that basically just reminded people that the states had the right to govern their own laws and that without interference from federal oversight, which was the
yeah,
original Declaration of Independence and the Constitution that we originally signed up
sure,
for as Americans or our
sure.
people,
And that's why every legal or medical or rec state can only do what they want to do within the state
right, exactly. But
to
Cole
this
Memo
day.
has now presently been obliterated and no longer exists. And so the rescheduling process is now very much incited by the fact that the Cole Memo has been removed from the Congress table and is no longer being a focal point, which is really scary. Bless you. And
Yeah, like
So,
it's
states' rights are
thanks.
gone, is what that means in layman's terms.
if feds have
So,
back
so
to free
when
willy, they
did
can do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah,
so the
which
Cole
isn't
memo was
surprising of
on
what
the
we're seeing.
books, and then now it's not on the books? Like, did Congress have a vote about removing it, or did it just
No,
disappear?
because Cole Memo has never been a law. It's
I see.
literally called a memo because it was a
It's a
Senate and Congress
memorandum.
note that was put down to the Obama administration that reminded them
Yeah,
of the
of what the
state's
law
right
is, the
to
state's
have the
right.
voters choose the laws within
Right.
that state. So if you like one state laws. You can move to that state and say, "Hey, I
Right.
believe in gun rights."
So
Wait,
it's
I
kind of
don't like.
like
I'm gonna
the
move to a
Fed's
different.
way of highlighting something that they want to remind the federal enforcement of, right? Like the
Well,
government is
yeah,
saying,
but
like,
then
hey, you guys, we have this Cole memo. You know, if you're thinking about cannabis, be reminded that states have states' rights, and that's
yeah,
coming from the feds. And now they're no longer highlighting that area of states' rights,
yeah, the Cole
correct?
memo has been
Right.
removed from Congress tablets,
And
and
that
so
affects us. This is just like the recap, real quick. By the way, for our live audience today, none of us are looking at the chat really. Gabby normally does that, so that is like or at least I'm not. Wow,
how do
there
I
was a
even look at the
massive
chat?
thunder.
There's
There
a
was just
chat.
massive
I never
thunder in
do
here.
AC
So
because
Oh,
I
look,
have a
people.
hard time keeping parallel thoughts going. So if like you're trying to chat and be conversational, and then you're like reading things, you know, like it just throws me off really badly. So I don't even look at it. So people could be being mean, they could be positive, they could be asking good questions. I don't know.
Okay, they can be mean all they
yeah,
want. That's okay.
I haven't
We're
ever
ready
yeah.
had
But
for it.
that.
to follow up
Cool.
on what she was just saying, Saraquoia,
Yeah.
the memo is basically like every administration, whether it's like local government all the way up to the Fed, they have a choice in what they want to enforce and not, how they want
Exactly.
to approach certain things. All right. And so the Cole memo was basically like a like a memorandum of understanding on like how to enforce certain things, what to stay back from, and it can change from administration to administration. And so now that we've got all
So
this
Trump
rec, and now that we've got
administration coming in is what took the call memo off
yeah,
the
like for
table,
instance,
or
a
like
different example would be in the Bush administration. I think it was '04 or something like that. They decided all of a sudden. Previously, they'd been getting more and more liberal on like on paraphernalia, and they
Right.
decided to smash down on it. And they did this. They did this operation called Pipe Dreams,
And that's when
where
Tommy
John
Chong got raided.
where John
right, yeah,
Ashcroft went
yeah. We
nationwide
had some friends with head shops that were caught up in that.
and they smashed, and all that was an administrative change. In the Clinton administration hadn't been very big on going after people selling paraphernalia, and John Ashcroft and the Bush administration decided to.
Hmm.
And so basically, like, yeah, if it's not a law, like she was saying about the Cole memo, it's
Right.
basically how each new administration wants to interpret it or not. So they could either keep it or they could get rid of it, you know?
Basically,
And
what it's saying currently is that, that they've offered, because I just, recapped because I've been like just
Yeah,
watching how
please. I want to
rescheduling
get
is
you back on
focusing on
track.
everything. And as I said, that it was put in place through the Obama administration, but the Cole Memorandum, which we call the Cole Memo, was the formally titled Guidance Regarding Marijuana Enforcement on State Levels. So, like, was very specific, and put up with the Attorney General James Cole during the President Barack Obama's stay. So that now having that removed where that memorandum is no longer, it means they're rebuilding the entire structure on how they're going to reinforce, which is obviously a key point of rescheduling, and
Right,
having the feds take over the industry in some form with
right,
the FDA or
Ugh.
USC oversight. It's
right.
kind of a little sketchy, that's for sure.
It's
It's
super
all of
it's
it's
sketchy,
way more
like
sketchy.
than
everything
I'm
else our
wondering if in
government
the end,
does. Are
like
you
these.
kidding me?
Sorry, Phoebe. What were you
No,
saying?
it's. I just was thinking that on a national scale, it's interesting how the states' rights, depending on what we're talking about, can be so polarizing left or right. If you're
Right,
talking
Yeah.
gun rights, you've got a bunch of
Right.
people over here
right,
going, we need
very.
it, we don't need it. And I
Yeah.
think it's interesting because, like, in Massachusetts, my neighboring state, there's a bunch of concern about all these changes. And I don't think the average cannabis user or the average American citizen realizes how much these memos, these decisions,
Right,
even
affects things.
laws, they affect your daily life. And if you're not paying
100%.
attention, all of a
Yeah.
sudden you're sitting there going, what happened to my weed? What happened to
Right.
my gun? What happened to my whatever it
Right.
is you care about? So, anyways, long story
Right.
short, AC Moon, important things that you're dealing with, right?
well, that we're all dealing with in all reality.
Exactly.
Hold
Right.
on
Yeah.
just one
Yeah.
second. Let me grab the charger real quick. You're gonna see me
Cool.
disappear for 2
Cool.
seconds.
Yeah, you guys, these are important conversations. And AC, coming from the growers background, we haven't even gotten into like her entrepreneurship and her own
Just the fact
inventions
she
that she
brought
has
up the
patented
pines.
and all that. So we have an hour left. But yeah, I'm really glad that we are talking about these important current events because I think that people don't know. They don't have a good
I really like to
understanding
focus
of
on
it,
it because like I honor the opportunity to share my story and my journey. But I feel that after having that journey, that I didn't take that journey just to say my story. That's not what
Yeah.
I've been doing. I'm not here to be a narcissist and be like, blah, blah, blah. I enjoy sharing my journey. I want to help others as much as I can and be understood and seen as just as everyone else does. But if we could find a way to actually change this shit and use
right?
these platforms and podcasts to be
Yes.
stirring public change and understanding,
Yes. Right.
that's why
Yeah.
I've gone through all this
Well,
shit and why I've had AR-15s in my face so many times, ripped off, raided, and
uh,
incarcerated is
uh,
because we're trying to change shit. Like,
yeah, we
I'm not
are.
trying to be a
We're here for the
celebrity.
plan.
I'm trying to see if we can fucking change some shit. Excuse my
I get
language.
it,
Oops.
lady. I get it.
And
Yeah, I get it.
gotta be a little fire. Sorry.
So,
Yeah.
you guys, I feel awful, but I have to dip. I only had an hour because I have to go to work. But AC, I'll
Cool.
be listening to the rest of this and perhaps asking Sarah Coy if I can shoot you an email or something to round up
Yeah.
after because I'm very down with what you want to do and I'll be listening intently. And I hope you guys have a great episode.
Enjoy your
Thanks.
work
We really
day, and
appreciate
I
you
we
being
will.
honor
here.
everybody
Yeah.
that's working
Happy
their
birthday,
asses off. I tell
sweetie.
you what.
Heck yeah. All
Yeah.
right. Have a great day,
Pass.
guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
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 Great to meet you.
Yeah. Man, girl. Yeah, I hear you. So this is important information for people who don't understand the background, right? Like how we got here and where we are, right? Because where we
And where we're
are,
going.
right,
Yeah.
where we are is that this whole memo is off the table. These federal officials feel empowered to go against the will of the people and rewrite the laws throughout these different states where now we're going to have more enforcement. Um, and then the rescheduling versus descheduling. I know this week they brought up, or the last couple of weeks, I've been hearing more rumbles about descheduling
Yes, it's been
from members of
descheduled now.
Congress.
Yeah, it's definitely been descheduled now. To wrap around back to the question that you had asked me, just to finish that part of the conversation off, after those federal raids, my partner was indicted and I left the country to avoid indictment. And so some people may say that's not so, you know, awesome or whatever, but I was raising a kid by myself in the middle of the
That
woods,
sounds like a
and my
smart
mom
girl to
had
me.
cancer, and I was the only one that could make money for the family and for my
Yeah,
community. And
yeah.
so I bounced, and so I
Oh
did
yeah.
in a way that was, I wanted to see the cannabis industries in Thailand, and I got to see some islands where people grew, and then later all over Lower East Asia and Vietnam, and then grew towards Morocco and Bermuda and down towards the Caribbean. Um, but those first initial years were because I was trying to distance myself from the NorCal heat. Um, Trying to get to cooler climates by going to hotter climates, I guess. But just to
Yeah,
wrap that question up. And
yeah.
so the
Very
feds, they
cool.
come in oftentimes as they're coming in right now. The state of California has been given $271 million by Gavin Newsom to the DCC in order to enforce illicit grow prohibitions. So we're now seeing more choppers in the sky than ever. We're seeing more raids than ever. And it's because they're using the tax dollars and purchasing dollars of the permits and all these things through the legal cannabis system. And people can look back at podcasts and writing that I've done for years. And I tried to explain to everybody that this would be happening, as I am in other countries, trying to say that we cause our own demise, and our lack of foresight and understanding like excites that even to a faster position of like we excite our own demise because we want these things legalized, but then like I said before when we were trying to talk, I didn't know what freaking medical really meant. I didn't understand that it meant white lab coat, standardized steel system that none of us can play with. You know, my brain was like, follow the leader, and the leaders before me, which were the hippies, used those words in order to just get the medical acceptance into the system of California, of other places, which was we have the right to use cannabis. And we use it because we have cancer, we
Right.
have AIDS. During that time, it was
Right.
because of AIDS and
Age
cancer. And they were
wasting.
like,
Yeah, sure.
you know, it was stopping wasting disorders. And
Yeah.
those wasting disorders were like a huge epidemic that was causing a lot of stemmed through again pharmaceutical companies, just like our
Right.
present epidemic of fentanyl. And fentanyl,
Right.
that shit isn't made on the streets or grown in your backyard. Fentanyl is
Right.
made in a pharmaceutical company, and pharma is
Mhm.
now taking us over. So it's like
Right.
looking at the reality of it. It's messed up.
Yeah.
It's really messed
Yeah.
up.
So you spent a lot
Genuinely.
of time with that board, right? The California Legacy Board. Um,
We're doing some
or
policy suggestions right now
right.
for.
So you're still active, like actively being able to make some suggestions to the board out there.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
all of the advisory board members and participants are able to, you know, provide what their opinions of possible policy suggestions are. And
Yeah.
then that's implemented and given to the DCC in hopes that they will stay on our side as
Yeah.
California needs to have its legacy producers,
Right.
excuse me, hiccups,
Yeah.
protected. We need to have access for home breeders and people with
Yeah.
smaller breeding programs to not just
Right.
be legal because there are over 6 plants per property, and you could
Right.
have 6 people living on one property and you get 6 plants. Like,
Right.
and there's no space to gain into the metric system or like gain access to
Right.
this. They've just
Maybe
knocked everybody out the park.
maybe I should throw something out just real quick. There was a thing in California where when we went legal, there was a period of time where they allowed like legacy clones and legacy seeds and stuff like that to like come into the light, you know, or come into legal. And then they cut it off. So now there's this
That was
weird thing.
amnesty.
Now there's this weird thing where like if you were to discover like, you know, if AC Moon's uncle had some amazing seed stash or something like that, like and she didn't put it into that window, it would technically be illegal. And it would be and you would have to jump through some hoops in order to even get it onto that side. And what she was just
Well.
saying is what's really interesting that I found is that so we've had rec now for I don't know 8 years or something, and I don't think that any true elites that will like clone like the discovery phase has been basically about like what makes people money, like what
Right.
tests well or looks well or yields well. And
Mhm.
what she was just saying about the 6 plants thing and the small breeders and the small almost every fire strain you've ever smoked was an accident or something that came out of some small circle, and
Yeah.
then that small circle shared it with people, and then people were like, oh my god, that's really good, and then the circle expanded and then it kept expanding, and then all of a sudden it was sour diesel or it was kush
Hell yeah, dude. Yeah.
or
We
it was
hold on to the
G13
things
or
that
it
are
was
good
lemon
when
G or
regard.
something. And so
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
rec people, and this is really important too, like when you walk into a grocery store and you buy a tomato, you're buying a tomato that like they're not trying to sell it to you because it tastes delicious. They're trying to find a tomato that yields really good, that the skin doesn't break, that they can harvest it early. It's a production model. And
Right.
what a lot of early rec is doing is trying to find plants that fit their production model.
Hmm.
And that's not where the elites came from. And what AC Moon was saying was that it's always been the small farmer, the small breeder, the small accident, whatever, that typically
Yeah.
some gem is found.
Yes.
Right.
And then
Right.
that
Yeah, for
gem
sure.
becomes a national story, whether it's, like I said, Diesel, or whether it's Kush, whether it's Purple Urkel, whether it's Skittles, whether, a lot of little accidents.
Mhm.
And the
Yes.
rec market has not been good at all so far in their R&D department of even though they're not going to get rated, they have way bigger facilities, they have way
Hmm.
more money, they have all these things, they're not bringing the new to the
Well,
market.
and we have a lot of discussion around, former Cal Poly student and a good friend of mine, Caleb Chen, who also was working with Dominic Corva, who
Yeah,
former
we
Cal
did we
Poly.
did shows with them for sure.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I thought you had. So I refer back to them and saying that like his thesis that he did, which was done beautifully, and I was honored to be a part of his thesis research, was about the bottlenecking, and it's a really essential topic for that to be highlighted in a university white paper about how prohibition has bottlenecked, or excuse me, legalization has bottlenecked cultivars and flavors that are available. We have eliminated a great amount of diversity and resilience and strength out of those gene pools, because if we're not doing that with the whole game, then it's the name game thing. And when we want
Right.
our cultivar in there, we end up just replacing lemon kush with whatever new strain that we've just created, and then it goes into the metric system as a lemon kush because that's where the metric was already opened. And so then therefore you change what lemon kush is to this new thing just in order to get that new thing on the market, knowing
Yeah.
that on the streets it's going to be called other things. You're just fudging it through the metric system to get it into a
Huh.
legal cultivation facility. So if it's not just completely bottlenecking it, then it's completely making it into bullshit because we have to play this
Right.
name game so often just to make it
And
work.
then you have no real history of the genetics anymore.
Yeah, it
Well, you
gets all
also have a
chopped
thing
up. That's
where
why
Mhm.
genomic testing is getting more and more prevalently important. And again, I will suffice to many people, Indica Innovations International is one of the things I
Yeah.
do is help with, gaining genomic testing, doing all of your HPLVD, mosaic and other things,
Oh yeah,
connecting you
lady.
with laboratories so that you can get a map of your genomes that actually
Mhm.
gives you a a proof of
Complete
concept.
picture.
This is a
Yeah,
proof
right
of
on.
concept in a plant world. And then you can
Cool.
go, okay, let's double check that. You think that you
Hmm.
have what I, created, then you're
Right.
going to have something to check back to all the time.
Nice. Yeah.
You can look at that map, look at that map, and if it's not the same, then I don't give a flying fluck if you say that it's the same strain. If the
Right.
alleles and the genomes
So,
don't
so
match.
that's one of your companies, Indica Innovations. Can you put the way to get a hold of you in the chat? So if there's people out there that want to get a hold of you to talk about genetic testing or to get your services,
Oh,
you
thank
can,
you. I am
get a
at
hold of them.
I am
So
at Indica Innovations International or indicainnovations.com. And I mean, I have many services from helping people patent objects, create, cultivate, breed, build businesses, create IP around everything, do your standard operating processes. I'm certified HACCP, FDA, USDA, OSHA, OMRI, IPM, CGMP. My degrees are in environmental horticulture and forestry, and currently doing my testing for ISO internal auditor 14001 for environmental compliance in order to best oversight large cannabis cultivation facilities from toxifying nature.
hell
So
yeah.
I can help pretty much in all aspects, except for I do not do law and I do not pander towards the medical oligarchy. And
Hell
so
yeah.
I like to do the research. I have the Caribbean Cannabis Project, where I am honored to work with many beautiful breeders from here in the Emerald Triangle and throughout Northern California, and even a couple other places, donating
Nice.
seeds to me to take down to the Virgin Islands, where I work currently on the island of St. Croix. So I provide those genetics to those that have signed up as part of Caribbean Cannabis Project to do research on their new founded legal space. And so we have the first three legal farmers in the nation of the Virgin Islands. And so being
Oh
able
yeah.
to set the northern hemisphere cultivars there and study them. We're looking at the morphologies, the change in adaptation, the changes of possible transpiration or respiration exchange. I'm looking at all of the science on adaptation, morphology, and then looking at really seeing where a cultivar is sending a shock. If how much can it take essentially with the pure UV under the straight equator? It tells you
Right.
real quick on if you got a stable strain or if you got some crap
Right.
out there. But I've
And the
had
I
some.
Virgin
wonder
Islands
if
is
how
a
different it is that you found between the climate in Thailand, where it's like super humid and stuff, or way up high where it's hot as fuck. So the climate in St. Croix, is it similar working environments or is it totally different?
Every
'Cause I know
environment's
they're
definitely
different from
different.
here. Yeah.
It's
Tell
definitely
them.
different from the northern hemisphere. My 40
Yeah.
acre farm in the Sierra Nevadas is about 4,000 feet, and so I have a lot of chilling
Wow.
hours. As we know,
Yeah.
indica and it has a real need for a lot of chilling hours, especially if you have anthocyanin producing cultivars, because that purple is only captured through chilling hours because it allows
Right.
potassium to not be exhausted during the respiration and transpiration process and overutilized so you get that that neons. Tend to be a partial shade grower at high elevation, so it allows for me not necessarily worrying about high production, high yield so much as high quality. My quality is
Nice.
sticky. The
That's what we want.
air pressure is
Yeah.
changing, so I have a real, very beautiful graphic trichrome structure that comes off up at those elevations, and less of the atmospheric vapor density and the vapor
Right on.
saturation. So there's less humidity in the air. While in Mendo and here in Humboldt, where I'm at
Right.
currently, the the humidity is so dense in the air, even it causes mold,
Yeah.
instantaneously. Down in
Mm.
St. Croix, we get different types of the the molds, but also what we call wind chap. Like
Mm.
the wind is constantly over chapping the leaves.
Right.
It makes to create a
Well,
pretty flower becomes a little bit
I
more difficult.
remember you saying, so you were on, was it Koh Samui? Which island were you at were you on an island in Thailand?
Oh, in
I guess I
Thailand,
was just
that
thinking
was
like
Koh
the
Samui.
islands in Thailand, are they kind of similar to the island there as far as like what you have to watch out for? No,
Not
totally
at
different.
all.
Right
Not at
on.
all.
Right
That's like
on.
a vastly different conversation right there.
Right on.
Koh Samui was one of the crazier experiences because I stayed on in a hut. I wanted to train for Muay Thai
Oh
fighting,
yeah.
and then I was
Dude,
training,
I would go live in a
helping some
hut in
people do
Koh
yoga.
Samui.
Ouch! I was staying with people that were, they're all Muay Thai fighters, and so
Hell yeah.
I was really engaged with
Well
wanting.
protected on the hut.
Yeah, I rode alone, but most of the time it's because I wanted to learn Muay Thai, and that was my
Right on.
objective was like beginning to train all those types of things.
Wow.
And it's really really hot. It's really really humid, and I lived in a
Right.
hut for $10 a night
Oh
on
gosh.
across from the Thai prison, which was
Wow.
all the mainland Thai prisoners were sent to Koh Samui, and I could hear animals and people being tortured to death pretty much on the
Wow.
regularly,
Oh
and to the
man.
point where I have Thai soldiers that are freaking real soldiers. They're not like American soldiers. They don't smile. They don't look at you and
Hmm.
like they're real soldiers.
Yeah.
Um, Going up into the cuts and everything, you start seeing a lot of the corruption from the dog meat trade, and which was really hard
Mm.
for me to ingest. And I ended up being
Wow.
disconnected from my career at that point in time, spending a greater amount of time fighting the dog meat trade. And because
Wow.
that was something that really affected me in the way of seeing how, the public treated animals that from my culture were domesticated. It was a little bit of a culture shock, but that was my entrance into international work. Right in there in the
Wow.
humanitarian and just piss a whole bunch of mobsters off by spending $5,000 to get their trucks off the road. But that was how it
Wow.
came in, and I ended up
Yeah.
getting to see some really beautiful, very very private cannabis grows. And when
Yeah.
I realized that I had the ability to work in all these climates, way back then in 2014,
Right
2013.
on, right on. You
Yeah,
were there a
and
while
it
ago.
really made me go, all right. And I brought back some seeds, did some crops, and some crossbreeding of my goo, which I had been holding, to the Thai seeds. And so I had blueberry Thai and several other things. And that was
Nice.
a damn long time ago. But those plants were
Yeah.
like an easy 20, 21 feet tall.
Right.
Impossible to work with. Impossible. I'm 5'2". Like I
Yeah.
max out on a good day, 5'2.5" with a nice pair of shoes. Like I'm
Wow.
up on 14-foot tall ladders and I am still not
Can't
there.
reach it. Wow.
Pointless.
Wow,
Like,
girl.
I
fuck
mean,
these plants.
one thing I think that I was going to ask you too about that is that I don't think one thing that I don't see discussed very much with like all the like the rec stuff happening is like how you really need plants that suit the climate, and you
All the
can't just be
time.
like, oh, I'm going to take this like key lime pie cookie thing and I'm going to take it down to the Virgin Islands and it's going to
Yep.
crush, and it's like,
Nope.
oh, I hate this environment, it's too humid, I'm going to rot, I'm going to die, or
Mhm.
Massachusetts or wherever. I mean, even when I worked down in Santa Barbara during COVID for a little while,
Oh, nice.
and it was like even the difference in light, right? Like the
Mhm.
longest day of the year in Santa Barbara is like 13 and hours and 20 minutes long, right?
Absolutely.
So
That's
the way
true.
California works is like you would get shipped these plants from a nursery that was probably keeping them under 24 hours of light to make them look good for sale. And then
Uh-huh.
you'd bring them outside and it would be like literally 13 hours and 10 minutes and they
Yeah.
would just start to flower,
Yeah, and in
you
the
know?
Wow.
Caribbean, it's a
Yeah.
12 and 12 all year round. We only
Right.
have 12 minutes of change within a
Oh,
12
wow.
month
Yeah. 'Cause
cycle.
it's so
So
close.
So I was
it's
saying you
something
probably
you see
need
immediately.
you probably need things that are acclimated, or things that
You have
like
to
aren't very
create
common.
acclimation. That's what I do, is
Right,
help
but I just
people
mean in the
learn
sense
those.
that the stuff that
Cool.
worked in Garberville, or Soham or whatever on the hill up there is a different cultivar that would
Yeah.
work in Thailand or would work in the Virgin Islands or something like that because the climate is so different.
It
Yeah.
does.
You, you,
But I
you
have
know?
had, one of the stronger portions of working in from Northern California to bringing those cultivars for adaptation is I have focused highly on, through the last 25 years of my career, even though it's focusing on finding those cultivars that are vetted and stable, that have 3 years of trials, that have been back crossed and stabilized to themselves. Because too many people forward breed, and nobody's back crossing in order to stabilize. And that's like a really essential part of having something that's going to be consistent in every environment, because plants within a year or two can adapt, and I've proven it many many times over my career, is that I can take a goo, which I've held the goo for well over 20 years, and now have a couple of different versions of it. I just did a back cross from a 1980s seed stock from an older gentleman. That is the original goo is a form of Northern Lights. And so I took that goo and then back crossed it back to Northern Lights that the original goo came from. And so that in itself is like essential for me to affirm the more sativa leaning aspects of the genetic lineage, so that when I take it to St. Croix or other Caribbean, based areas that are heavily droughted, because St. Croix doesn't have a huge amount of atmospheric humidity, like, because there's only 8 square miles of rainforest. Well, I can go into the jungle all over St. Vincent, the Grenadines, or Thailand, or any of these, Vietnam, Cambodia, Malaysia. The jungle is what's creating that that humidity. That jungle in
Hmm.
Florida is creating that humidity. If it's
Yeah.
void of humidity, it's just going to be like open and everything's killed because of the UV exposure. And so the mold doesn't really exist when you have high UV. And so,
Do you know what corn sweat is?
yeah, 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 the respiration.
Yeah, so it's like in the Midwest, they have this humidity thing called corn sweat, where it's like, I don't know, it's like an acre of corn gives off like 6,000 gallons of water. And then so when
Exactly.
you have millions of acres of it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just giving off mass amounts of water. Like if you
Mm-hmm.
watch those like David Attenborough like nature shows and like the
Yes.
Amazon, all the plants give off all this moisture all day, and then that
Mm-hmm.
moisture rises up and cools, and then it rains in the afternoon, and it's like this
Exactly.
kind of
Water
self-perpetuating.
cycle. Water cycle.
I was
It's
gonna
true.
ask you. I was gonna ask you a question I thought of before I forget, tying into like women of weed. When you were working in the Virgin Islands or especially Thailand, like
I've
how
only
was
been back
that?
for 6 weeks. I just
You
got
only
back.
been you just got back. Was
Yeah.
it difficult being a woman?
Yes.
Like were you listened to? Was there a barrier there like in Thailand was there barriers like culturally or whatever where like you found it more difficult to get your expertise to be listened to? Did you have to deal with people that had been like sort of machoistic their whole life, and all of a sudden here's this like little tiny American white girl that's showing up
Yes.
and it's like, you got to do this, you need to do this, you don't know what you're talking about, and you're like, and they
But
just
she
aren't
does live,
used.
she is from Humboldt, so like
But I
that
just,
might
but
have
no,
given her
but
a
I just
little bit
mean
of
like
status.
It's
if you're in
true,
Thailand.
and my daddy was from those two different colors that are often seen as white and another color, and so as he came back from Vietnam, my family's military. My mom was an off-grid doomsday prepper. I didn't really have much. I've always been kind of like the redhead fighter because like a question that will remain in conversation. So I've always had that little stem off, but you're thank you so much for paying heed to that. Not so I is that that's it's a huge thing that we need to highlight for everybody is because if you're not sexualized, sensualized, demeaned, put in a box, or watched, you're completely commanded, controlled, and commandeered. And it's something that it's been a hard navigation learning from being a very empowered business owner, everything else, to being able to go to international spaces where not only at times may not be able to speak their language, but also have to investigate, learn about their culture, their career, and not just their culture as a specific part of the humanity, but one that is illicit that I walk in and there's AR-15s, that there's guns everywhere. There's like it doesn't bother me. None of that shit bothers me. It's like whatever. I have firearms. I've been shooting my whole life. So when you go into those areas, I think they already know just by my energy states who I am. I am not afraid of heading change, working my ass off like a dude, and most of the time I can spin circles around any man working like twice as fast, if not 3 times as fast, and do it more consistently. And it's just because I think women have process management because we were geared towards like having kids, being able to gather nuts or whatever and then cook all at the same time as watching water boil. I think that we've been just scientifically on. But yeah, there has been even when I first started patenting elements, I think the things that stuck out even more so than having to deal with sexism or racism, which I deal with quite often even in St. Croix. To this day I'm called Whitey. To this day as like a white gal, and I have so much love and so much true love that all I can do is smile and just continue embracing that like I don't care about racism. I don't see what color you are or how tan of a beautiful skin you have, how white of a beautiful skin you have. I don't care if it's tattooed with a million colors. It makes no sense to me. And so I think that eventually they genuinely see that I'm just like here for the people
For the
and my
people.
culture supports me in that.
Because
So I'm really blessed to have that.
what made me think of it was when you were talking about like the dog meat trade, and I was just
Yeah.
thinking about
That's a
cultural
little different
difference.
than the weed.
Well, I was just thinking about like cultural differences between like there and here,
I paid
where
a lot
like,
of cops off.
yeah, where you're like this is normal here,
Yeah.
right? Like in Thailand it might be normal to eat dog. In
It
America
is.
it's like
Or
dog is
was at that
family
time.
or family friend, and then like you're from you're a I have all daughters, so you're a American raised, female, and then you go to Thailand where it's like, oh, if I have an extra daughter, maybe I sell her
Yeah.
into the sex trade or something like that because she's, like there's just a lot of
And this
differences
is not
in.
just Thai culture. I don't want us to sound like we're explicitly talking shit on Thai. Many
No,
third world countries throughout the world are doing due to extreme poverty. Yes, do have to sell
yes.
their children. They do have to go through these extremely painful and duressful situations. And we are by no way means making light of
I
that.
mean,
disgusting.
One other thing I wanted to talk about too was that when you're in the Virgin Islands, one of the things I experienced in the Caribbean, even in Hawaii, which is obviously not the Caribbean, but like island culture is sort of like you're either from there or you're an outsider,
Yes,
you
it's
know, and
very
it's
true.
very insulated. It's a very small place. So like for instance, Hawaii, which is an American state, you can be there for 30 years and the locals still think you're an
You still
outsider unless
Howley,
you're,
dude. You still
yeah, you're
Howley for
still that
sure.
way. And I've had friends that tried to go and start businesses in the Caribbean or work down there,
It's true.
and the outsider thing is just a
It's real.
giant, it's a giant barrier obstacle that needs to be overcome because a lot of them feel like there's only so much money on the island, and every dollar that you're
Or
making is a
homes.
dollar that should be going to a local.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I've taken a lot of time in every culture that I work in, I live there and I live there with the people. I don't want to ever live in a glamorous house that's above and beyond all everyone else. Like I want to be in the backs of the trucks with the farmers. I want to be in the backsides of the alleyways with the people that are busting their ass. And when we're really with the people and we're really getting a chance to learn, because I'm there to learn before I can teach. I'm there to be a teacher. I'm there to be an educator, but I can't do that and be a good integrator of cannabis into different societies and commerce until I truly understand their plights and their situations and their all of their I'm there to learn first before I can ever teach. And so I think that when you come into a space humbly, and too often white man is, and I'm not talking shit on white man, bros, love ya. It's just too often white man has come in as a colonialist, and they're like, I know it better, I do this better, I do this. My company is founded off of integrating in your space. I'm going to come in and help you infuse the foods that you've been making since you're a kid. I don't want to be all like, hey, let's make the whole world gummies. It's made out of bones that are probably toxic. Who knows? Like, I don't want to make it all that stainless steel. Everything looks the same. It's the same bud structure. It's like, I want everybody to be preserved. Cultural preservation for all spaces, for all flavors of humans, of plants. I want all of the
Oh
endangered
yeah.
species of animals to be saved. And I think people feel it when I'm there working with them because I'm not asking to be paid. And most of the time, I'm working huge amounts of time for free because I love them and I love the planet and I love the opportunity that we can use cannabis as a catalyst for world change. That's what it is to me at this point. It's not just something to commerce off of. I can breed 1,000 plants. I can sell fucking 1,000 pounds. I can make millions of dollars or sell out to Monsanto. But if we use it as a catalyst for change, helping regenerative farming, organic farming, getting people off of this trip of drugs and alcohol and all that shit, maybe we have a chance to change something more than just
Right.
like make money. Can't be all greed. Or we just like the
Right.
oligarchy and they're a bunch of fuckheads, right?
Right. That's it.
It's just crazy to me.
I mean,
Sorry, I'll soapbox that up. You
no,
guys
no, I
directed
mean,
that conversation.
this is a
Gabby
real thing
popped
because
in and out there.
I feel like for a long time because cannabis was basically illegal, right? Or even when it was 215 in California, it was still illegal enough that it kept the big businesses and it kept the rich people and it kept the lobbyists and it kept all that out of it, right? So it
Right.
was it developed its own thing, and now that it's going rec, or now that it's becoming more acceptable, all of a sudden cannabis is looking around and they're like, wait, all this money's pouring in, lobbyists are pouring in, we're not good at navigating local and bigger governments and how to lobby them and how to get what we want from them, and we're playing on a field that we're unfamiliar with, a game that we're not used to playing, and in the beginning we're getting kind of beaten up about it, you know. And so that's why, you know,
Really beat it.
Saraquoia at a lot of times talks about like her local Ohio stuff, you're talking
Yeah.
about stuff,
Well,
but
you guys are
cannabis
a
people,
customary tale.
whether you want it to or not, politics has found our little corner of
It
the
is,
world,
dude. It's
and
changing
it's
rapidly.
shaping, and what we're realizing is that when big business comes in, or when pharma comes in, or when lobbyists come in, or when all these different things come in, they're all scrapping for their piece,
Yes.
and they don't have the same background, they don't have the same wants and desires. What they want is
No.
they're like, oh, here's this industry that I've been told is going to be bigger than alcohol. I want a
Right.
giant piece of it at the ground level because I'm going to
Right.
make a fuck ton of money.
And I
They're
want to
not
throw
talking
money
about
at it,
what
and I don't want to do the work, and I don't
Yeah.
they just.
understand the
Easy
culture
money.
or the
So, but I just
sacrifice
mean that
or the
all that
community.
stuff that
I'm just
AC
going to
just
do that.
said,
Yeah.
they want the beautiful house. They want the millions.
Right.
They want
They
all
do.
that. The stuff that she's talking about fighting for and wanting, that's not really what, that's not even on the radar of what a
Right.
lot of these wealthier people are after. And so
That's
we have like a
exactly why
very,
we have to keep fighting them, bro. Is because
we
that
have a big
oligarchy is taking it all
cultural
out.
shock as these
Right.
groups mix.
Right.
And these groups end up like what I see in California. I'm not going to name any names because it's not important, but what I see in California is like, but I just mean like, okay, some rich consortium group that you would never stand behind, right? They're like, you know what? That guy has a reputation. He's got full sleeve tattoos. He's been in it for a long time. What if we gave him a fat salary and let him pretend like he's the face of the organization?
I've
We'll
seen
give
that
him
before.
4% of the company, but we'll let him pretend like he owns all of it. And that way it'll appeal authentic to the cannabis community and we'll have an in,
Right.
even though we're like, making all
Yeah.
these deals and arrangements from a $3,000 a year country club membership. And that's where we're making these deals with lobbyists. And
That's when
so,
you know you're really into politics now. When you can put
but
a
that,
head
so,
puppet in
and
I,
so
charge.
I
that's,
have I have a question, Natso.
uh,
Hi, Gabby.
Do you think what's up? I've been listening to the podcast and I love you guys doing a great job. And I have a question for Natso on what he said, and then I also want to comment on something else if I got a minute
sure.
before AC leaves. But so my question for Natso is, and I know you've been involved, in large operations and stuff, and it didn't go good, and you got screwed over by corporate cannabis. But like, as someone who, like, I want to be in cannabis all my life,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a struggle.
Yeah.
And if I found a big company that wanted to hire me on, but to do things right, like, I'm not trying, I don't want to sell out, but, if I got a job with a big company that could give me a future, I mean, so do you think it's possible to, work, for a company in corporate cannabis without
You
selling
don't
out,
think you need
or
to sell out?
you just have to sell out?
I mean, it's,
Huh?
there
This is a
is,
big one for me too.
this is a big
That's a
one
good
because
question.
at the core level,
So I
okay,
ask the tough questions.
it depends on who you are, Gabby. Like,
Yeah.
so, and what I mean by
And the
that
company, maybe.
is that, like, once you have a family,
Well, right. I mean, that's
right, and
obviously,
you're a and you
you
hold on,
can't go
and
to
you're a
like one of these shady
provider,
companies.
you start looking at it like, I need to be able to keep my kids' phones on. I want to be able to put food on the table. I want to be able to survive. I
I
need to
want
be
to
able to
not
do
go to
these things.
jail because I need to
Yeah,
take care of my
like,
kids.
I can't
Right.
parent. I don't want to parent from behind bars and stuff like that. And so, and so, yeah, I would say the answer is yes, except for it's like that is the essential. That's the conflict is like we're bringing in our culture and like our belief systems, which is kind of radical, and we're trying to mix it. Like, okay, let me take a step back, Gabby. This is the core issue right here. In order, when people went legal, the government was like very concerned that illegal growers were going to be funneling illegal money into the system. So they said all the money to build out these facilities needs to come from legal sources. Now the problem is because it's federally illegal and banks have federal charters, banks won't give AC Moon a business loan. She can't come in
Yep.
there and be like, "Hey, I have this idea. Will you
No
loan me
insurance.
money and fund me?" Right? They won't do
Right.
it because it puts their business at risk. Okay? So you need legal money. Who has legal money that's not a bank? Rich people.
Rich people.
And so what REC
Right.
did inadvertently is it made rich people a silent partner in basically everything. Because they're like, oh, you want to build out like the place you work, you want to build out a facility, it's going to be $18 million. Where are you going to get that money?
Yep.
right? And then you end up
Right.
having to take large amounts of money from a rich person because they
And then
have
you're
Right.
banked
like, boom,
money.
But
boom,
you
boom,
know,
boom,
guess who
boom,
set up
boom.
these rules and regulations to be so arbitrary and ridiculous that you need $18 million to open a fucking
Well, that's
agricultural
and
business?
and
Rich
But
people who lobbied the
but
state
no, I mean
when the
it's
laws
just
changed so that only they can play. You know, that's why Gabby can't have his own small business. Why I can't. Why you can't.
well they
You
call
know,
that,
because
Sarah, they call that
we're
regulatory
taxed
capture.
out of it.
They call it
You
you
know.
where you
absolutely
layer
can.
enough
And
regulations.
wait a second. I need to command the conversation for just a
Sure.
second on that note. My dear Lord, do not believe that you can't own a small business. Here's something that I've been really noticing amongst all of us. We're all experiencing the same thing as an ecosystem and as a cosmos of society, right? We are the deviants of society. We are the rebels. We are the quiet. We are the wind whisperers. We're the ones that are not spoken or not part of mainstream indoctrination. A thousand different reasons why we're not indoctrinated into their spectrum. But there's a lot of mental illness going on right now because a lot of our people are fucking killing themselves because they feel like they're not part of the clique anymore. Like they're not part of it. Like we need to stop being obsessed with cannabis to the point where it's causing mental illness, okay? Yes, the industry is caving in a lot of ways. It's changing, it's evolving, but that's
Yeah,
true
a
of
lot of
any
people have
industry.
lost their livelihoods, and that always affects mental health.
They lost their livelihood for an opportunity to
Well, it's
reinvent.
also like, is there not going to be a place for us, right?
Again, again,
Like you
sir,
said, like you just said, yeah.
what I'm saying is that for you to even say that there's not a place for you is a sign of not okay. Because this world that we live in is huge, and the trees and the soil and the everything that is everywhere, everything is created by somebody, somewhere, something, everything. And stop being just obsessed with weed. This isn't fucking high school. Unless you truly have a passion, there's a thousand other things you can do to make money, to put food
Right.
on the
Well,
table, to
sure.
feel good about yourself. Like,
Yeah, but
if we're
like,
only obsessed and then
Well, of
we
course,
fail
but
it
that
as
that
well,
that
you
no,
could
but
do
business.
that's my
other
question,
things. Yeah.
AC Moon.
I'm
No, that's my
retired from
question,
the
AC Moon. Is
business.
like,
You know.
do we have to do other things? Like, like, do we
Right.
have to?
Do we not
I
have a
mean,
chance
Well,
in
to do the
California, it's
dream?
particularly tough. Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, I personally just feel that, and this may hurt for me to say, and everyone may take offense, and I apologize if this causes offense. But what I've seen as somebody that has stepped out of the comfort zone of being from a drug culture, not just that, but like people in my life as a child were doing dope. It wasn't just the weed,
Right.
we all came from a lot of like actual drug culture that is alcohol culture. My father was an alcoholic. There was a lot of drugs of all sorts of different forms around because I was from a biker. I was born at a Hell's Angels clubhouse.
Red and
And
white.
so when you are stuck in a space of where you think that you can only succeed happily within the clique, which means that if I'm so obsessed with being part of cannabis that I can't invent something that's nothing to do with cannabis and really put my passion into it, that means that I'm kind of addicted to cannabis. And if I'm so addicted to cannabis that it's controlling my mind and my mental health, that I desperately want to be involved in some form, way, shape, that to the point of where I'll put myself in poverty and not just go, hey, I can go back to school. Even if I'm at 45 years old, I can go back to school. I can reinvent myself. I can get more certifications. I can do anything I want in this world. Literally, from diving with sharks to being a pilot, it doesn't matter your age, you can do anything. And if we are
So,
trapped only in cannabis, it is actually taking us backwards and not helping us evolve. So if you truly believe that you want to be an employee in a business that is cannabis related, and that is your passion to be a grower, to be a breeder, to be someone that is formulating formulations for topicals or something like that, that has to be your actual passion. It can't just be, okay, I'm going to do this so that I still have a place in cannabis because I want to feel like I'm part of the club. And at that point in time, when we're all just chasing being part of this club because we all got FOMO from not being part of the next generation of weed, we're not doing ourselves any justice, in my opinion. And I really want everybody, I'm blessed at not having my farm licensed right now. because not only does it give me an opportunity to reinvent myself, yes, I can work in cannabis in 1,000 ways. I've proved it, and everybody else here has, and a lot of other people outside of thousands of people have proved it. Yeah, we can grow, we can make all these businesses. But there's also a lot of space that we can take to find out what other things that we take pleasure in, what other things that can help us evolve
I
this
want
world.
to respond to what you're saying, and you only have a little bit more time, so I want to make sure that I respond to what you're saying, and then I have
I
a
think you're a badass, and you're probably
not a
going to
new
be a
topic,
business
but
owner that's going to kill it
right,
so much
but see
big.
what you said was like a little bit of a contradiction. You contradicted yourself because
Possibly.
what you said is you can do anything you want, but why don't you do something else? You know, it's
That's,
like, well,
that's what my point
yeah,
is. That's
I
truly what you
can do
want.
other things. I know I could. I know I could go into other industry and I could be a salesperson because that's what I do good. I make relationships with people,
Right.
and I could be in. But I've been in cannabis now for over 30 years, and it is my passion, and it's just more
You've
and more
already got it
difficult
down.
every day, and there's more and more hurdles. Yeah, and I mean, like, look what's happening. I've been doing something. It's been helping me survive, and now they're changing the the hemp rules, and
Right.
that's
Well,
gonna
How
Adam,
can we
I
make
gotta
it?
shut down
So
my website. It's
let me
can
throw
we
something in
round
here.
robin that question? Can we round
Yeah, I
robin
think
because
I
you are
think we
beautiful?
should
Like,
because there's a couple of different pieces of legislation on the
how much
table
time do you
right
have,
now.
AC?
She's got like 18 minutes, 17 minutes.
it's
I
But
just
mean,
because I got to get out to the
There's
farm.
something really important. Yeah, there's something really important that I want to mention before we go. So, like, let me just say this, and then if you guys want to comment on it, and then if not, we
we'll
can round
circle
robin
around.
back on this. But
Uh-huh.
there's something that's been affecting me lately, and something that's been on my mind a lot lately. And you were talking about it before about how cannabis is our medicine, and that people that are sick, people that have cancer and people that had AIDS, they depended on this medicine.
Uh-huh.
And I want to point out for everybody that lives in places of abundance like California that there's people that struggle to get their medicine still today, and even in the US. And like now there's like new laws going into place, like for instance in Texas, they're saying if you have a
Right?
gram of weed, you can go to
Yeah.
jail for years.
oh
It's
yeah.
a felony.
And
Yeah.
Have you
what
seen those new laws,
I have
AC?
somebody.
They're unbelievable.
So bad.
It's like
They're
it's psychotic.
they're
If
like
you have a
literally the
pound
most.
of weed, you can go to jail for the rest of your life. But like murderers,
Yeah.
people that hurt
Stay
kids,
out of
they
Texas.
face much less time.
Okay,
Yeah.
I,
But
if
let me
we're
wait.
gonna
Hold on,
round
Nacho. Let
robin,
me just say this real fast. Wait 1 second. This is important because this is what I wanted to say. Um, I met somebody recently, virtually on the phone, and he's been struggling. And he used to live in Hawaii, where he was allowed to grow his own medicine. And I don't want to tell too much of his story, and I hope that he will come on the show because I do want to do more shows that focus on people that use cannabis as medicine. But
Cool.
he served our
Well,
country and came
That's
back fucked up,
mm-hmm.
hmm
and it hurts so much to know that somebody that like put his life on the line for all of us, and that like every one of us wouldn't have his back. And so he used
So
to live
is
in
he in
Hawaii. He could
Texas?
grow his own medicine. No, now he's in New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
And the reason why, this is like a hotbed subject for me is in New Jersey, you're allowed to go buy the shitty weed that they sell in dispensaries, but you're not allowed to grow your own.
yeah.
And he's like, look, I go to these dispensaries, I spend $60 an eighth, and I'm buying shit that doesn't help me. And he's like, and I can't grow my own,
And they're going to do that
and
to
it's just,
everybody. They're going to take away home rights everywhere.
Well, I
I
think
think this is the number one issue for me in cannabis is everyone should be allowed to grow their own medicine.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
And shame on these people, like I made a video of it or put put a video of Bob Marley saying, why are all these people that are trying to do so much good, why are they saying that we shouldn't have this plant? And that's not exactly what he said, but pretty much. And so literally, fuck you to all these politicians and all these people trying to grab our money and make it difficult for us
Everybody
to even
remember
survive in
that
this
in the fall,
business.
vote them out.
And then don't allow people to grow their medicine in their homes. Like
Yeah.
I'm angry and almost in tears about this right now at the same time, because it's just so fucked up that anyone wouldn't be allowed to grow this plant for their medicine, or that like
Or
grandma in Texas who's been buying these gummies even at a fucking gas station because that's all they had. Now that shit's gonna be gone.
Right.
I mean, I'm not a fan
Well,
of the gas station
it's
weed, but like
weird.
in Texas, that was the only place they had access.
Right.
The only
I feel
place that they
like
had safe access was.
what just
Anyway, I'll
got
breathe and
mentioned
I'll
by
let you guys
you and
respond.
AC is such a big subject. You could rabbit hole any number of little parts of it and go pretty deep, right?
very true.
But
Mhm.
I'll say this. Like, I've said it before on this show a bunch. I feel like cannabis people we fought so long to get cannabis to be legalized, and we were really unprepared as a group for day 2. Like,
Right.
well, what happens?
What happens after that?
What are
Yeah,
the
we
second
thought
and
it was
third order
freedom,
effects? Once
but
they give it to
freedom and
us, what is
regulation
that
are
going to
not the
lead
same.
to? How
Yeah.
are we going to be able to keep the aspects of it, right? And just
Right.
really briefly, you know, I should say that, like, after decades and decades of prohibition, the first medical law in this country was 215, and it's a long time ago now, so people might not remember, but when 215 got passed, there was no drugs that were saving AIDS patients,
No.
Right.
especially in the Bay. There was tons of people with AIDS that were dying, and there
East
was a
Coast
lot
too.
and there was a lot of wealthy gay men
Yeah.
that were just shattered by their best friends and their lovers, and the people that they cared about were dying. And
Yep.
Dennis Perone and all these guys, they got together and they pushed forward. There is no chance we would have gotten the first medical law without essentially, like, this
The
devastation that was
elders.
happening in the gay community at that
Well,
time.
and the
And
brave
they wrote a
people
law.
willing to come forward and have testimony to how cannabis was changing their lives and their
And that's
Dennis
where I
outcomes.
Perone
entered
wrote
it.
this law, very gray area, to allow a lot of freedom.
Right.
And Prop 64 and a lot of these newer laws to make rec have not been made with the same people in mind.
Well, now
And
it's
that and
about
there
money. We know
and
that
there's a
now.
heart and there's a heart difference there,
Yeah.
And so
Huge.
Yeah.
what you were saying, Gabby, is that
Pardon me.
we were in a fairly lucrative industry because there was a certain element of risk, and it kept all of the players that normally control society out of it.
Yes.
And so it was left to us. And now that rec has come into play, all these different groups that normally run everything else are butting up against us, and they're like, thank you for taking it this far, but we'll take it from here.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's
And
because
there's a
once
big
you
battle
ask
going
them to
on.
like, okay,
Yeah.
you've said that you wanted taxable commerce. Now that's our job, because when I was federally rated, even every time we were rated at the dispensary or any other spots, the IRS is there when the NSA with the FBI. The IRS they're there as frontline enforcers. This isn't just like a background thing. Money is the reason they move.
Yeah.
That is the reason they
Mhm.
raid. That's the reason
If
that they
if I
come in.
remember correctly, when the IRS raided all the Bay Area clubs, Harborside was the only group that had put aside tax money
Yeah.
to give the IRS, and the IRS hammered a lot of the original stores
Yeah.
Wow.
into submission because they hadn't
I
paid the
was one of
federal
them.
government their
Were you?
money, right?
Yeah.
And so what's happened right now is that we're in, and this is why, Gabby, this is why everyone's so uncomfortable, is because we're in this big period of transition, and it's not determined yet where it's going, right? I would say, from what I hear, it's not so much big business taking over.
Big pharma.
Almost all the
Yeah.
stories I hear from all these private investors, okay, these people have lost their ass, and they don't want to admit it publicly. There are companies that have raised $200 million
That's why they're
and their
going crazy.
assets are about 5 million and they don't have any money.
Yep.
And so the
Wow.
investors are out 190 million or something, but they just
Oh,
don't want
big
to
time.
admit it yet. Right. And there are story after story after story. I don't want to name names, but like, I mean, for instance, up by us, AC, Flo Connor raised $275 million.
Oh, I know Flo Connor well, and I know
And they
them
shuttered.
presently too.
Right. There's a
Wow.
lot of big
And they're back
groups.
up.
Most of these groups, this money got hosed, and these investors won't ever see it again. So it's not even like big business is coming in and taking over. It's more like they've lost a giant amount of money because the system doesn't really work,
Yeah.
right? And like there's this thing where it's like the government doesn't want to admit it doesn't really work. Like look at all this stuff if you're on IG, and people are realizing that like metric
Metric is
doesn't work.
owned by private companies like Snoop Dogg. They're owned by Verde. So
Metric doesn't work at all. Like it doesn't track and trace at all. It's just an
I'm
onerous
implementing
thing.
that into the Virgin Islands right now, and it is a act of God. I tell you what, the metric
But
system is not fun.
and then they're finding out that like
Wow.
the tags have chemicals that are nasty and various
Yep.
things like
Yeah, I
that.
heard about
And
that.
so
Yeah.
and so the point that I want to make really strongly is that we are in a dramatic time of change. And that change is very uncomfortable. And what you were saying, Gabby, is there's a bunch of middle-aged dudes. I'm one of them. Women. There's a bunch of middle-aged people that have been in
Right.
Canada their whole
Or some
life.
old fucks.
No, I just mean like there's a bunch of people that have been in Canada their whole life. And if you're in your 40s or 50s, it's not a good time to have your industry turn upside down
Right.
and go from dependable to like very difficult, right?
But I
And it can be.
hope that everybody sees the light in saying that this is the amazing opportunity to reinvent ourselves and expand our minds so that we're doing something with our lives more than just weed. There's
However, okay, hold on,
But
AC. I just want to
reinventing
say
yourself
this.
should be a choice. That should
I
be a
have
choice
Right.
to
no,
Yeah.
reinvent
well,
yourself. It
Yeah.
shouldn't
because
be
you know
Because
what?
you're
forced.
saying like
becomes
we
a
have a choice to
hidden
do
beauty.
anything, but not the thing that we want to do. You
So
know what I
okay,
mean?
I'll throw something out
But
there.
I mean, like I do other things. I hear that, but like, if that's what you've always done, then it seems like a removal of your job more than like
I
It
mean,
does,
being
but
able to
it's
make
also
a
an
choice.
evolution. You can go
Yeah.
back to school and evolve with that job, or you can choose to be employed by a larger business. It's not a stop, it's just an evolution. I just try to really encourage the legacy people that are experiencing these sorts of, frustration from all walks of life to the mountains to the city. Everybody's lost their jobs and our livelihoods in the hustle. And it has caused a lot of mental illness. That's why I was speaking about it earlier. And it's really important to not put it just in a space of like we're all just complaining about what we lost, but as Gabby did, saying, okay, well, where do I stand? Where do I
Yeah.
stand, and what can I do to? Am I selling out by gaining advantageous position with this larger company, or looking at our moral perspectives on how do we want to continue playing this game, or do we want to create our own lane again? Because you can
Just don't
invent
give
more
away all our
products, you can do
secrets.
more things.
well, I mean, it's also true, no matter what, that even though in the long run,
You can
if
innovate.
this change is positive, which we hope it will be, obviously, I've got three teenage daughters, and the youngest one has a bunch of health problems, and I wish I was making like '09 money, because it would really help my life. It would really help my
The
daughter. It would
economy
help
is
my
so
family,
bad.
and I'm 50 years old, and so it's not very well timed to
Right. It's
maybe do
terrible.
one of those shifts that AC was talking about to go it's like you've got three kids in high school, you've got this and that, you've got stuff right now.
But we have
And
the
men
internet, and we didn't have that when
No,
we
no, no, I
started
get it.
going. We got a world in our pocket.
I'm not trying to
Yeah.
be Debbie Downer. I'm just saying that like humans aren't good at rapid change. And what our community is experiencing is rapid change. I mean,
Very true.
I don't want to sound like a California dick
And
right now,
everybody stay positive
okay?
during all this
But
change as much as we
Yeah.
can.
Reach
when
out
I
to
when I talked
AC at
about
her innovation center and see
Well,
if she
you
can
can be
offer you
angry.
some
Can't we be
advice on
angry,
all that.
AC?
but hold on.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
It
All this
depends on
state
how it affects your health.
So think about it like this. When I was talking an hour ago or something about how in America we grow crops where the climate best suits it,
Yes.
this state by state model, by definition, if we go federally legal, all of a sudden there's going to be places in America that are far superior than where investors built up in New York or Massachusetts or here or wherever, right? And there's going to be a big
Absolutely.
reorganization. And so there's a lot of wasted time and money, right? And, it's like, I thought, and I think a lot of people thought that legalization was the fight. But in all honesty, that was like one
It's the
step
beginning.
on a
It
long
was like the
stairway.
beginning of the
And
conversation.
now
Beginning, yes.
what
Hmm.
Saraquoia is doing all the time is you realize that like you sort of have to fight even if you don't want to keep your world a bit the way you want it to be. Oh, you
Yeah,
want home
every
grow
day.
for everyone? You have to fight for it. Oh, you want
Got to have
old
the
people to be able to have
conversation.
That's
their
what I've
medicine in
been
their
trying to
backyard?
yell.
You might have
You
to
want
fight
no
for it
fines,
now.
no time for your community for
And so,
misdemeanor offenses? You can change that at your city government.
yeah, so I feel
In
like a lot of
Ohio,
people in
they're doing
cannabis,
initiatives.
they feel like, oh, I'm going to not get raided, you know? And they're just racing towards this legalization or rec thing. And then all of a sudden it happens and they're like, wait, now I'm poor and I still have
And
to
you're going to
fight.
get raided. Yeah,
And
yeah,
You're
and
gonna
this is
get
going to
ready.
go
Yeah,
on.
right. So
yeah.
And this is going to happen. And I
Right.
mean, there's this
So,
thing on IG right now where they're pushing this big deal. I knew him personally or whatever, but like Eddie Lepp, where, he did 10 years. His lady did 10 years. He
I
theoretically
know him
had
personally.
had.
yeah.
I mean, I don't want to. He and there was a lot of original weed people are pretty colorful. Let's put it that way. There was a
Yeah,
lot of
that was a really great way to put that. Not
there a
so.
lot.
Let's say it's just really colorful. Yeah,
Really
Colorful
colorful.
that's an
characters.
understatement.
And
Yeah.
there's a
Colorful.
type of person that's willing to go up into the hills and take the kind of risks
Yeah.
that those things entailed, and maybe isn't like and like maybe they're not the same set of skills that like that lead to like legalization or a different fight or what have you. And so I feel like on a personal level I want to preserve as much about weed as I can, whether it's strains or whatnot. And obviously I want to be able to survive and support my kids through this thing. I don't want to like fail on a personal level. And if you're
Hmm.
young, you might like I have a buddy and I kind of envy him because he has a totally different job that's well paid. Weed is his hobby. He's got like 4 tents in his garage. He breeds what he wants, he grows what he wants, he collects things from friends and grows them out, but he's not dependent on it, which allows him to fight the good fight
Exactly.
and still go
Right. Right.
home
Independent.
and
Right.
pay his bills and be happy.
Hmm.
It's the people like it's Gabby, it's the people like us that have put their whole life into weed, and now that weed is in a transition and it's very difficult, right?
Right.
It's like, and I know you very
Yeah.
well, so
People
you've got
don't
kids.
understand. Like
When
right
you've got
now,
kids, you
seeds
might
are going
not
to
be
be
able to
illegal.
go live in a hut in Thailand like AC Moon did to pursue a dream,
Right.
like
Or
if
just to get out of Dodge.
you've got a teacher parent meeting. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like you've got to take them to you've
You
got to
guys
take.
are awesome. I so appreciate you so much. I have to get ready to go out to the farm and
I know you do,
get
babe.
out of the fog line and back to the heat where I need to take care of my plants. But I appreciate
Yeah.
you so much. And
Yeah.
Sarah, before I go, Miss Koya,
Yeah.
as a woman, and since we had an opportunity just real quick before we solid up because we've had a great conversation with these
Yeah.
beautiful
We have.
men.
Yeah.
Um, what is there anything that you would like to talk about in these last 5 minutes as a woman?
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate that you are still out there fighting this fight every day, as am I, right? And I
Yes,
do
you are.
see that need to organize, right? And to not just be like, oh, shit's changing, but to take every moment to use our momentum to steer the boat the direction we're trying to get it to go. Um, and so, right now, with the way our laws are changing in Ohio, I'm trying to remind citizens that if they have a decrim law on their books in their town, then that law still applies to them. So if they're out sharing in public if they're getting harassed by the cops because their weed is on their front seat and not in their trunk,
Right.
they're going to get no fines, no court costs when they go to court.
Oh, wow.
So right, because that's still on the books and it's not in conflict with general law, which now says that it's
Oh,
a misdemeanor to have your shit on your front seat. But misdemeanors are
good
still
info.
no fines, no time in every city unless your city's repealed it, which none of them have.
Mm.
So
Good info.
that's,
Good
yeah,
info.
that's
Tag that
something
one.
people need to think about how we're going to circumnavigate, just like we have in the past. We
Hmm.
can't throw in the towel, right?
Continue
Like that's
advocating.
giving up. Yeah. So
Yeah,
on the
we got to
federal
continue
level,
advocating.
we didn't ever really loop back to like what's going on federally with the descheduling. And I just wondered, I know you're working hard in California. Do you have any plans on the federal level to make contact with any of your senators or to submit testimony towards descheduling?
I am submitting testimony, and thank you so much for asking. Is I was invited in by a group called the U.S. Drug Policy Watch, and we'll be putting on. I'll be participating in a few webinars that's teaching USDA and FDA examiners about cannabis and
Mm-hmm.
about how things operate, and our basic structure aspect. It's a hard position to be in, but in order to affluent change, we have to first make them understand exactly where we're coming from. And so I'm joined on one of those panels, one of those U.S. Drug Policy Watch, those panels by an alcohol lobbyist who
Huh.
is also fighting for descheduling.
The THC
Due to
beverage
him,
lobby,
yeah, for him, he's
aka the
thinking,
alcohol lobby.
yeah, is he wants it to deschedule and emulate the alcohol model per se.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third lobbyist is the uh, I've forgotten his one about it's about medical, but it's like herbalism medical, and so we're all just kind
Okay.
of working together to convey to these regulators, and so the regulators pay to take these courses from this nonprofit that we've volunteered to help. That is pretty much just trying to, much like yourself, we have so much a hard time keeping up with the several different laws or platforms that may be,
Right.
coming or going,
Mm-hmm.
or changing constantly, or federal pressure, which, it's hard
Right.
to just see all the different moving parts. And
Right.
so once we have a little bit of help, like just kind of summarizing things, there you are, Saraquoia. Oh, there she's gone again. And it's really important for us to just pay attention to the nuances, the small little things that may not be in bold print, but
Yeah.
it's probably going to be the most potent part of the conversation later. And
Mm-hmm.
such things like when they're writing in bills double laws, where they're like right now, Trump's trying to force one order by putting another order in. And it was like the housing order opposed to like something I've forgotten what it is, but they basically double write things in bills so that
Yeah.
all of a sudden you'll legalize guns just because you wanted to legalize cannabis,
It's like
Right.
a
and
poison
so
pill.
yeah,
They
like
put they
they
put they put
double write
something.
bills.
It's like what they'll
Yeah.
do is they'll put a bill up that, like, voter
Yeah, it has
rights or
two
whatever,
clauses within it,
and
and
then they'll
those
be
two
Yeah,
like,
I
clauses
thought
have
that
guns for
was
to.
against
everyone,
their
you know.
sunshine rule or whatever. That you're only supposed to have one clause per bill.
Yeah, I mean, what it
Wasn't
Right,
that
the
what
and then
they
reason
it
why I
talked
said
about?
poison
backhandedly
So.
pill
makes laws happen.
is
Mm-hmm.
one of the ways that they get laws passed, or one of the ways that they get people to vote against laws that they can then campaign against them, is
Yeah.
they'll put something in the law that's a deal breaker.
Yes,
And then
exactly.
they'll be like, "Oh, well, they just voted
They know
against
that they're
women
not going to
having
do that. Right.
Yeah.
they just voted against women having rights." And they were like, "No, it's that's not it at all. Like, you put kill babies in the vote for women's rights." And so we said, "No, we
Right.
can't have that. We just want the one
Right.
bill."
Right.
Right.
No,
And
it's a total hail Satan move, and they
Yeah.
tend to do that. Before I have to go, can I give you guys a little like interest? Maybe you might be interested in providing these in your area. I'm not sure. I was
Yeah. Are you gonna tell us about your invention real quick,
I would love
too,
to tell
or
you about
no?
my invention. I
Yeah.
think I might have some ads. This is the latest issue of Garden Culture magazine, which I'm blessed to be able to contribute to. I'm one of the writers here. Garden Culture magazine can be provided for free at your local grocery store, or if you have
Okay.
a retail or dispensary or site of any form, like they're
Hmm.
offered for free. It's a
Cool.
Canadian company that produces these really great family of people, and so I was brought in to be uh, what do they call it? They do a little highlight on you and whether
Yeah.
shit.
Mm-hmm. A little
So
write up.
yeah, a little
Yeah.
write up, a little author spotlight, and I think this article that I did in this one is about IPM management. And I am the patented inventor of crop tops greenhouses, where I invented an instant pop up portable greenhouse to protect plants from storms, as well as used in breeding programs, and also used to protect from mold, caterpillars, and other environmental illnesses. Right here, you see an
Yes.
outdoor
Yes.
grow. And in this article, it discusses IPM. I'm a certified IPM manager out of Africa, where I was certified for integrated pest management with soybean crops in South Africa. So I also write for Weed World magazine, and I would love to share one of those with you. But please just
Cool.
subscribe or be a part of it.
Yeah.
Weedworldmagazine.org. That is out of London, the UK, and so we have a lot of diverse and really great information out of that one. So I just wanted to plug those in real quick for those beautiful editors that I get an opportunity to contribute to. Almost recently, Cannabis Now as well, Dink Magazine, and a few others. And do some law journalism with
Nice.
an Australian company. So
Nice.
worldwide, we're just trying to affect change and continue inspiring each other and not let the oligarchy take us over or cause mental
Yeah.
illness or make them think that we have control over us or our minds or our souls. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time to have me on and to
Thanks
continue
so
the
much.
conversation. You're so
Yeah.
fun to talk to, and you have so much
Yeah.
reverberance. Last time, Not So wasn't here, so we didn't get
I
that high
know.
end Not So energy coming. He brings the heat over here with his. Ticka, ticka, ticka. You got some good information. You got some good power, and I really appreciate you guys putting on a good
Yeah.
podcast and always bringing
Thank you.
Thanks a
acting like
lot,
a what is it?
AC.
Rise by lifting others, right?
Yeah. That's
Sometimes I
it.
think sometimes I think about like doing a whole politics podcast on where
You
it's
should.
going, but I don't want to
We
bore
need
people to
to.
death. But
Well,
it's
some
like,
people
I'll
that's
come on.
really their gear, and as
Yeah.
hard as you is to believe it, one of the things I have to teach in some of these different areas is advocacy. Some people
Yeah.
do not know how to approach their regulators, how to, investigate laws or search for laws or look at bills or understand policy rights or interactive human rights or even the Declaration of Independence.
Right.
People do not have that education or that knowledge of how all human rights are important, and
Yeah.
cannabis is one of them. Guns are one of
Cannabis
them.
is one of many
We
community
need to
rights
advocate for
issues. Yeah.
everything.
It
Otherwise, the
all comes
oligarchy
down to
controls
community rights.
us.
Hmm.
Exactly. And I would love to talk to you guys for another 15 minutes, but I have to go water plants or they're gonna get
okay,
super pissed off at me.
Yeah.
I have
I
Yeah.
these one
understand.
Gary
Don't
Paytons
do it.
from Mendo that you probably know of, not so. I got these really beautiful Gary Payton crossed with Purple Kush that was out of
Oh
the
yeah.
Mendo. And it's doing great up at 4,000 and some great I got some Gush mints, and I got a beautiful Murder Mountain from Rare Breed that I was working with breeding with him the last couple of
Not my
years.
favorite name.
And Murder Mountain
You
is
could call it M&M.
oh god,
But,
that's a good one.
That sounds so much better.
Well, it's because
Well, it's
Southern
sweeter
Humboldt,
anyway.
you know, it's funny
Yeah.
though because on my mountain where my farm is, I'm actually going to court this week because one of my neighbors murdered my other neighbor and like put 9 bullets in him and then switched guns and then put a 12 gauge in his chest. Like we got some serious shit because I'm from the mining country and there it's way deeper than cannabis. And so this happened like 2 years ago. And so right as the Murder Mountain thing
Right.
came out and it
Publicity.
became applicable that now I really do have a murder mountain because and that's one
Wow.
of several. We just had Josh got murdered. Like it happens a lot in the mountains that I guess people don't really just as much as the city. we just have a smaller population.
We don't have any bears around here.
But I gotta go water these plants, and I appreciate you guys
Dude, I
so much.
appreciate you
Do you
so
have any
much.
more
Yeah.
questions?
Yeah. I'll talk to you soon, I'm
Lovely
sure.
meeting you.
Thanks
And
so much
you.
for your time. Yeah.
Thank
You
you.
guys
I
get
appreciate
some
you guys so
consulting
much.
from AC Moon if you need someone to ask about all kinds of regulatory stuff, because she has so many certifications I can't name them all. So
I try to study as often as possible.
congratulations.
So
Yeah.
I want to end this by saying continue fight for education, because we're getting shut down in universities. Those of us that have built courses to be able to help the
Mhm.
next generation learn how to advocate, how to find their places, how to build themselves up, how to build these systems. They're shutting down education. And that's one of the biggest red flags of the oligarchy really taking control of indoctrination levels that don't allow us a future in education. Even here in Cal Poly, I was just at the Cannabis Studies Labs with beautiful Dan Moore yesterday, and
Mhm.
even in Cal Poly Humboldt, they're shutting courses down because they
Wow.
are not able to use Pell Grants. They're not able to get assistance for different. We're not allowed to teach about cannabis. So keep
Wow.
paying attention to your laws, please, like we've been
Right.
discussing, and help us steer the future and in all aspects, because otherwise, we're not preserving shit. And our legacy, the word legacy means is for generations to come. So we all
Yeah.
need to build a legacy together that actually lasts. So I super appreciate you. You can find me on IG at a dot
Hey, AC, before you go,
and Indica Innovations International.
before you go,
Yes, doggy.
make sure when you leave the
Oh yeah.
live that you leave the browser open until it says it's fully uploaded, please.
Oh, no problem. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
So
Yeah, it'll
And
say upload.
yeah, so all you got to do is just like press it, just leave that browser open.
it's like a bong hit. It
Thank you.
just upload, upload.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
your IG address
it's
again
a slow.
is a.c moon
A.C.moon and Indica Innovations. You can also check
on
out my
Instagram.
invention Crop Tops Greenhouses at Crop Tops
Yeah.
underscore greenhouses on IG, or hit me up in LinkedIn where you can see a lot of my bios, get a lot of links, or if you just Google my name, you're gonna see everything from Grow Magazine to Extraction Magazine, a lot of my research and my work, and the white papers that we're developing around the science that we have been bringing in and how to develop science documentation processes. If you need help with anything, I offer a free 35 to 40-minute consultation. If you hit me up, Indica Innovations, I'll help you go over your inventions, look at your viabilities, and look at where your farm needs to do, your cultivation, your breeding practices, creating formulations, building businesses anywhere in the world. And if I don't have the answers, I'm going to bring the people forward that have those answers for you at the cheapest cost, because we're not here to capitalize or get rich. We're held here to work together and save our community. And so I
Oh
really
yeah.
appreciate you guys, and I hope you all have a super good day. I will
All
take.
right,
Alrighty, we'll let
nice
you
seeing
go.
you.
Peace.
Thanks
Peace.
so much.
Yeah.
Bye.
Have a great day.